Yes, that's what I'm talking about. What is going on, everybody? Welcome, Goglings, Gogorifics, and Gog peoples of the world. Welcome to episode 328 of Pen and Pixels. I am your host, Arvin Elleron. This is the show that we do here every Tuesday from sometime between 4 and 7 p.m. Eastern, focusing on story and narrative in games, and today, focusing on more tabletop role-playing goodness with the D&D with GOG crew as we play more Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and this campaign has definitely been picking up. We got some problems, we got lizard men, we got invasions, we got all kinds of things. So I am very excited to see how the crew is going to manage this one. Before I go any farther, though, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us here in the channel. If you haven't done so already, please follow us here on GOG.com. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to subscribe to us here on GOG.com. That supports all of your friendly neighborhood streamers, including myself and all of the players today. And if you haven't done so, please consider clicking through and checking out our individual channels as well, because we have our own individual channels and Patreons and subsystems and all that kind of good stuff as well. We are going to be with you here until just about 7:10 or so, 7:15-ish, playing through Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and then that's going to be it for today. I will be back next week with some more Solasta, Crown of the Magister, the Lost Valley DLC, but I've got a big event coming up this weekend, and I'm going to talk about that big event in just a moment. But first, I'm going to unmute myself so the folks know that we are ready to go, and then I'm going to unmute them and apologize for having interrupted whatever their amazing conversation was. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to head over to reveal the incredible crew of the Ghosts of Saltmarsh ship that they might be taking over, the Sea Ghost. Well, we'll see. But before I go any further, I just want to quickly mention the reason I wanted to come over here first was to say that we have ARVCon coming up this weekend on my channel. ARVCon is to benefit the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation, which supports the work of young researchers. It has supported multiple Nobel Prize winning researchers into the field of cancer. They have done incredible amounts of work, and we have been fortunate enough to be able to support them over the last 7 years. We have raised over $20,000 for cancer research over the last 7 years. We raised $7,000 last year alone, and our goal this year is $4,000. We are hoping to bust through that and hit the past the $7,000 mark if we can for a single year. How do you do that, you ask? Well, this coming weekend on my channel will be multiple tabletop events and a concert featuring one Mr. Kilgore Trout that you see in chat, along with special events from the Rick Riordan, the author of the Percy Jackson series. The Rick Riordan Presents authors who are part of Rick Riordan's imprint, and a bunch of other stuff. But it will also feature everyone here except for Pyron, who's going to see Elton John. I think it's gonna be a long. No, it's fine. I'm sure she'll have a great time watching Sir Elton John, who I have seen in concert, and he's amazing. So, anyway, but Pyron will not be with us, but just about everybody else will be, from both this and from the Talisman Adventures stream, and even an extra person. So we will have Peripheral Mike, Darksaber 2K, Inanda, Undeveloped Bruce from our Talisman Adventures campaign, and Fleos, sometimes occasional player in our D&D campaigns, and the person responsible for the audio podcast of the Storm King's Thunder that you can hear, which has been super enjoyable to listen to. He is going to join us as well. It is going to be Saturday. This coming Saturday is going to be their particular event, Saturday the 28th, between 4:30 and 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and it is going to be a rollicking fun adventure. I'm not going to give you the details yet, but it's going to be a one-shot adventure. The players will be able to choose and make up their own characters if they so wish, and they have agreed that there are going to be shenanigans. They don't know what that means. It's always a mistake to agree to things that you don't know the parameters of, but that's their mistake they'll have to live with. Shenanigans are what we're talking about, people. And this crew is going to see how much money can be raised during their session. Now, if you, as good GOG.com viewers who care in the DRM-free community, if you want to show the glory of this crew, if you want to show how DRM-free means more than just a slogan, then I hope that you will come on Saturday and give generously and spread the word to the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation, which is working directly with us. They are registered with Tiltify, so we actually have a Tiltify charity page set up and all that, which we're going to be publishing on Friday, so that's super exciting. And see how much money we can raise. Can this group have more money raised than other groups? Only you can decide that, chat. So that is going to be happening, and of course, GOG.com is one of the official sponsors for ArvCon 2022. I am very appreciative both to them and, of course, to our lovely stream team leader, Pyron Jade, for supporting us with this. We have lots of game codes to give away. We have actual photos mounted on metal, like ready to be hung type of displays, which is really spectacular. We have Pegasus Spiele, the sponsor for Talisman Adventures, has board games that they sent me, a set of board games. So one of the prizes is a board game pack of no fewer than 3 board games, which I will ship to you at my cost, unless you live in Iceland, in which case we'll talk. But otherwise, I'll still send it to you. We'll just have to talk shipping. But all of that is going to be available to you, chat, if you come over and support us. So ArvCon is starting on Friday. It will run all the way through till the following Monday. Major amount of events and hours, something like 20 hours or some more than that of content over the course of the weekend of tabletop goodness and other things. So please stop by and support this worthy cause. And thank you to GOG.com for doing this. And now that I have talked up this awesome event, I want to talk up this awesome crew by having the aforementioned Elton John concert going Pyron Jade talk to us a little bit about how things are. How excited are you for Sir Elton John? And who are you playing today, Pyron?
I am very, very excited for Sir Elton John. Like, really, I have not seen him in concert before. So,
he's good.
First time. Yeah, I mean, he had quite a little bit of a career, so I assume so.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have to admit, Chad, that of course, the decision between being here and playing for you or watching Elton John was not that easy, but it is made. And I'll see if I can at least watch a little bit from the hotel room or anything. And next year I hope to be, of course, there again, because playing with these people is awesome. And tonight I'm going to play Waves Crashing Against Rocks, who's a Kenku paladin, and she currently sees that there's an opportunity to maybe get a ship. And she really, really wants a ship because she's a sailor, and a ship means freedom to go wherever you want. And freedom is something that Waves Crashing Against Rocks values really, really highly. For those of you who've been here, who are here for the first time, welcome. As Kenkus do not really talk, but just repeat things they've heard, I use a soundboard to mimic the mimicry to use sounds for whatever Waves Crashing Against Rocks wants to say. So if you hear really weird noises, that's most likely me. I try to move my lips when I do so, but I don't always do it, but it could be something like this.
The ship is ours!
So just so you know.
Yeah, to be clear, when Pyron makes the note about, has the possible opportunity to do something like that. By that, what Byron actually means is that thing you just heard was said at least 6 times during the course of our session last night. The ship is ours. Even when I was like, okay, and then you look at the lizard bat. The ship is ours. So Waves is very much into this ship. Also because it's called the Sea Ghost, so it sounds awesome, and it's a smuggler ship, and you only have the little minor problem that it has currently crewed by a bunch of lizardmen who are looking to maybe invade a town. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm sure it'll be fine. I am very happy to have Byron with us, and again, thank you, Byron, for the work with getting the codes for the event. I really appreciate that. And I am also really appreciative of Darksaber 2K, who comes to us, gears in the background, goggles on the head, having handled all of the stuff necessary for Dashboard and Moobot as always, and being ready to shout, "You got this coming!" No, I'm just kidding. No, this is going to be a non-Baldur's Gate event in this particular case, but it is important to note that Saber, I think, has been inspired by his play of the amazing Baldur's Gate. And so I expect, Saber, that it has met your expectations. Are you going to go directly through without passing go or collecting $200 to Baldur's Gate 2 after you're done with this? And also, who are you playing today?
That is the plan. Obviously, stopping off with Tales of the Sword Coast and Siege of Dragonspear on the way for a little detour. But that is currently the plan. I mean, ask me again in another 50 hours, I guess, because I've still got a lot of Baldur's Gate ahead of me, I understand, which should be interesting. And chat convinced me to go to, was it Durag's Tower? That was fun. Ugh. And by fun, I mean, I actually did manage to beat the 2 monsters with 2 party members left standing at the gate. It's like, wow. Yeah, not ready for this yet.
That took forever. Yeah, okay. Oh, right. Right. So you didn't even go in, is what you're saying.
No. I killed them and was like, yeah, that's just getting through the gate, and I've only got 2 party members left after
so
that.
Long. It's good, but it's long. Yeah.
Yeah. They said it was like late game content. I was like, well, yeah, but you've mentioned it now, so I've got to go at least look at it and see if we all melt.
Yep. This is nature's way of saying do not touch. Very much.
Yes. So. Yes. But yeah, I'm very much enjoying my playthrough it, which is, for those who don't know, my first time playing Baldur's Gate. I know.
It's all right. You got to it eventually. It's fine.
Yes. But tonight I will not be my human fighter that I'm playing through Baldur's Gate with, who is immune to just about everything coming his way right now. I will be Morthoil Gogoniant, a dwarven artificer, who, after working in the docks at Saltmarsh, has somewhat been distracted by an appearing ship suddenly. Hang on. But has sort of been dragged along semi-reluctantly with this crew who, because we seem very at cross purposes as to what we think should happen next, and he doesn't yet know what the lizards think will happen next, because he's been down ship pretending to inspect for wood weevils and other imagined things that the lizards wouldn't really know about. So he still has that revelation to come. So we'll see how he reacts to that, probably very soon.
Yes, that's true. And it is a good point that the crew is mostly, more or less pulled in the same direction, is, trying to protect the people in the town, sometimes against their own better judgment, also trying to, unravel this larger conspiracy, all that political stuff. But now there's also a ship. The ship is ours. And wait, what are we doing with this ship? So yes, I look forward to seeing Morthwheel's reaction to, well, everybody else in how this works. We will see how that happens. But always a pleasure to have Saber with us. And also always a pleasure jumping up to a person who apparently now has gotten onto the deck of this ship. And that, of course, is one Mr. Peripheral Mike. Mike, it is good to see you, my friend. I hope all is well. I guess I would just ask, did you make sure that this was a historically accurate depiction of a ship that you have here, and all that sort of thing? And are you ready to swab the deck and man the bilge hold, and all that sort of thing? Maybe that's too soon. And who are you playing today?
Yeah, things are really good with me. Busy as always, but always wonderful to be busy. Rather be busy than bored. But yeah, I'm glad you like the ship. This is our new ship. I hope you like it. It's called the Bad Green Screen Ghost, because you can see my arm disappearing through it. It's definitely not the first image I found on Google Images, and it's potentially from something like Shutterstock, so I'm probably going to get sued for it. But anyway, but today I am going to be playing Silvo Janus Betulus, our half-elven, our lovable rogue of a half-elven sorcerer who can't quite control his magic at this point in time and isn't even quite sure what it is. But what he does know is he kind of wanted to stay in Saltmarsh, and now he's not in Saltmarsh anymore. So yeah, we're going to see how that goes.
It is going to be interesting to see how this is all managed going forward. I'm excited to see it. Always a pleasure to have Mike with us, and also always a pleasure to have Inanda with us, who, as we were talking about, now you did not see chat beforehand, that in the green room, my players were engaged in a bit of Pictionary. And that is actually what Brian was doing on the ship last time, was engaged in a bit of Pictionary. So we've got a lot of drawing. So I'm curious whether this represents your standard artistic talent, Inanda. Is this the kind of thing where, your active work with Rembrandt style paintings and all that? Are we going to get to see that in the session today? And also, who are you playing today?
I would love to take credit for the amazing artwork that you witnessed earlier. However, hands up, it was not my masterpiece that you saw.
I know.
The last session, I was trying to teach the lizard crew, to distract them, how to basic rudimentary sailing of the ship, depicted by pictographs and the medium of interpretive dance. They seem to get the message a little bit, and it seems to have distracted them a little. But yeah, I'm not doing too badly, thank you. Rolling with the punches and all those kind of things that you do when life throws lots of rubbish at you. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to today's session. I am playing Brian the Bloodthirsty, who is a water genasi fighter. She's a little bit wide-eyed and a little bit sassy. She knows her mind. She knows what she feels is right and wrong. Her crew is most important to her. And when people aren't 100% behind that, she finds that baffling, because that's how she's been raised. The crew comes first. So we find ourselves on the ship, and myself and Waves are chuffed to bits because we are in our elements. We want to be on this ship, and we have eyes on the prize. We don't want to give this ship up. Don't think Silvo and Morthwheel are quite as on board with that as myself and Waves, but we will cross those bridges when we come to it.
Absolutely. Maybe you'll burn them on the way across, depending
Possibly,
on how things
I wouldn't be surprised.
Very happy to have Inanda with us. And yes, it'll be interesting to see, since half of the party is, the ship is ours, and the other half of the party is, we're doing what now? And Morthwheel doesn't actually even know about this yet. Actually, is Silvo aware of this yet? I'm not, now that I think of it.
The ship is moving.
Well, the ship is moving.
I assume I'm aware that the ship has moved.
Yes,
but I don't think I'm aware that we've taken to the seas.
Outstanding. I cannot. That's right. I knew Morthwheel did not know, and I cannot wait to see what happens when Silvo and Morthwheel collectively find out about this. It's going to be great. Well, with that said, let us fire up a little bit of music chat, and let's talk a little bit about what happened in our last session. As I fire up some. Let's go with Ocean Voyage Storm-Tossed Fantasy, shall we? There we go. The smell of the salt, the feel of the wind, the cry of the birds. Presumably albatrosses, because they're all bad luck. This is what greeted our crew in our last session. For the last several sessions, our crew has been dealing with the ship known as the Sea Ghost. This is a smuggler ship that apparently was being used by some of the people that were using what was supposedly a haunted house, specifically a group of people that were led by a wizard named Sanballat, quite a powerful wizard, actually. The party dealt with that group, but then decided that they also needed to get the ship back, both because it was important to try to break the smuggling operation and because some of them really wanted a ship. And so the party went out to go and do this. And everything seemed fine until the party was somewhat overwhelmed by the number of people that were on board. They were able to defeat a couple of them, but there were a bunch still that remained. They were thrown in the bilge hold. They tried to escape from the bilge hold, and there were some different contexts, things that happened. First of all, they discovered that there was a sea elf known as Oceanus, who they ended up finding and were able to make friends with. But they also found that there were rot grubs and some other disgusting things in this bilge hold, basically in the hold of this ship. And, of course, there was the danger of the problem of figuring out how to get out of it. That problem was solved when they were released by a group of lizard men who had apparently been originally enslaved by the pirates, by the smugglers, had fought back against them, and killed all of them, which was great, except that the party doesn't speak lizard man, and so the party spent its time basically having to figure out how to communicate to the lizard men that they themselves were not, smugglers that should be immediately put to death. They managed to convince them that that was the case, and everything seemed to be going swimmingly until, using, again, Brian's Pictionary skills, she was able to give them some information about here's how you pilot a ship, here's how you do this, and the leader of the lizard men seemed extremely pleased with this, ordered the party to be released. The party was looking around for other things that they could find on the deck in different places, and in the meantime, Waves and Brian were up there on the deck of the ship, and of course Brian then convinced them, or showed them, I should say, showed the lizardmen how to actually pilot the ship, which was great. And as they were heading off into the ocean, as the ship began to move, the lizard man pointed to the map, a crude map that had been drawn, partly by Brian, I think, and sort of drew a part where Saltmarsh was, put a big X over it, pointed to himself and the rest, and then pointed to Brian and I believe Waves, who was right there, and then pointed down with a big grin on his lizard-like face to the big red X that had been crossed through the town of Saltmarsh. If the party understands this correctly, this might suggest that the lizard men have some perhaps not positive feelings towards the town and have some dangerous plans for it. And so, as we bring things back over to the party, and I believe Morthwheel is still below deck, so it's Waves and Brine. And I'm going to bring us actually first to Morthwheel, because as you were below deck, you do feel a lurch, Morthwheel, and then you know that the ship itself, you can hear from the creaking and from the sound of water moving along the hull, this ship is now moving.
Well, it seems like they figured out how to move the ship anyways.
What was that noise?
It's just the ship moving. You'll get your sea legs.
What do you mean moving? Why are we moving?
I assume the lizards have probably figured it out.
But I thought we were getting off the ship.
Were we? I don't really speak lizard. I didn't get the gist of it.
Why do you think we were leaving now?
Did anyone tell the lizards?
No one could talk to the lizards.
That's my point.
At this point, whatever I got a weapon out of the chest that I've just opened, and I can't remember what it was.
I think it might have been a dagger.
Either a dagger or a sword. I'm gonna try and tuck that behind my back.
Okay.
It was either a dagger or a short sword, and I can't remember which. I'm just gonna try and because there's loads of little loops and bits and pieces, like torn fabric and stuff that I use to sort of hook things on underneath my coat. So I'm gonna try and attach it to one of those.
Okay.
Oh my god, I have to get back to Saltmarsh. I cannot stay on this ship.
Well, it's not going to do you much good running up there, jumping over the side now.
Certainly not doing that. Jeez, this is going to be the pirate's fault. By the gods. Every time I think we're out of trouble, she throws us back in the deep end.
It seems more of a group effort to me.
Silvo is going to storm out the door, step over the parrot in the cage, or the parrot that we threw at the lizard man.
Rock pieces of eight!
And
Morthwheel's not done looking around.
That's fine. March towards these stairs.
Okay. Before I follow Silvo up to the deck and join Waves and Brine, Morthwheel, what are, as you're continuing to look, what exactly are you looking for still?
There looks like there's a door here.
Yes, actually, let me pop over to the map so we can all see that. Okay, so...
Yeah,
And we still haven't found our
looking for
gear.
a thing, weren't
We also
That's
haven't
true.
found our gear and anything else we might have been there to find.
Yeah, we were looking for evidence, weren't we?
This isn't looting, this is a recovery operation.
Strategic recovery operation.
Strategic
lucrative
recovery operation. Exactly. Okay, so you were looking... That's right, you were looking over there. There was a door over here to the north
Yes.
that you had not opened yet. and then you were still looking around in this place, which is a cabin, and that has the parrot in it. And it was right over here, actually, that you had the secret cell that you found Oceanus in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna go for the obvious door because I think we looked in just about everything. Well, the chest was the most interesting thing.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Well, when you open that door, this is what you see. This cabin that you are looking into occupies half of the stern section on this deck, with one bulkhead that is running along the center line of the ship. Along the bulkhead, leading up in the direction of the bow, is an enclosed companionway. So basically a staircase. Hold on a second. A staircase, like right there. And at its foot, there's a door in the central bulkhead which leads to the other part of the stern, and that's the one that you're just looking through as we speak. On this door, so on the other side of this door, is a dark blue cloak. There is a single bunk with the bed linen heaped in a pile set against the hull, and at its foot is a brass-bound wooden sea chest. Its lid is currently closed. And you can see from where you are that under the bunk is a brass box, which is also closed. And finally, in the center of the cabin, there's a plain wooden table, which is bolted to the deck, and there are two books, one open and propped up against the other. Beside the table, there's a wooden chair right down here, and hanging from the ceiling over the table is an unlit hooded lantern. And so that's what we've got. And then right next to the hook, over this way, there is what looks like kind of a closed hatch, almost like a porthole type of thing.
Okay, so Morthwell turns around and looks at the cabin he's just come through, and he's running his hand along the wall that he knows is fake because he's been on the other side of it.
Right. Yep. And he's able to find the door for that fairly easily because of that. Yes.
And then he follows it, and he follows around the frame, and he follows the other side because it looks very much like the wall carries on at exactly the same distance there without dropping back, as you might expect if a room was fully sized in this situation.
I see. So specifically you're looking like in this area or this area?
He's running his hand along the wall, so he's following it now because he's got this feeling that there might be another hidden compartment here based on the fact that the wall is pretty much in the same feeling. He's probably going to end up at this porthole, but he's working his way along it.
Make an investigation check for me, please. And no, I'm sorry, not investigation, perception. Check for me, please, as you're doing that. And I'll ask you to do it at +2 because you do have some awareness of structures of things.
So that would be a 16.
Yeah, so as you're going along, you find basically right here, you find what feels like a slight depression in the wall. So it's like you're moving your hand along it, and then your hand goes down a couple of centimeters and then goes over. And so there's very clearly something else here. The wood is not exactly the same across this wall.
Okay. He's going to try giving it a push just to see if it's like a latch or something.
It's not a latch, but as you kind of fiddle with it, you can definitely hear that it's hollow. There's unquestionably some room or some space on the other side of this.
Okay. So the question is, what has the lizardman done as Silver stormed past?
I will talk about the lizardmen in just a minute. So far, they haven't done anything yet. I'm going to talk about him in a second.
Okay.
So yeah.
Because I think if I start pulling out a crowbar, someone may come to have a look. So I'll file that away for a moment.
Okay.
He's going to have a poke at the cloak.
Okay.
That wasn't intentional, that rhyme.
Poke at the cloak. Cloak poke, if you will.
Yeah, he takes out like a screwdriver from his belt and he sort of lifts it up. And he's just having a look underneath it.
Very nice royal blue cloak.
What size is it?
It is. It looks like it's sized maybe for an average-sized human, so maybe between 5'7" and 6 feet or something. So it'd be a little much for you. Although you could always hem up the bottom. I mean, it is very nice though. Fabric is nice, and all that.
You'd be too fancy for my blood. That leave it for those as wants it. He's gonna you'd like to make his way over to here and investigate no, not the chest, the box under the bed, I think. Because since that appears to be an attempt at concealed, that would probably catch his eye if he spots it.
Okay. So there is a brass box under the bed, and it is heavy, quite heavy. It's not nailed to the ground, but it's very heavy. Then and just as you're pulling, like, and you need to actually pull it out of underneath to open it or try to open it.
Yeah, both of them will give it a go and try and drag it out.
Let me have you make a strength check for me, please.
Oh dear.
I'm going to come to Silvo in a minute, and then I promise Brian and Waves.
I'll do it with guidance if I may. Or maybe I don't need the guidance, but I'll throw it in anyway. Because why not?
So
That'll be an 18.
18. So yeah, you're able to pull it out. It is very heavy, and it makes this like creaking, scraping sound as you pull it out. And after a moment, you hear steps.
I'm just going to keep looking around because I'm not doubt the lizard men particularly know the inventory of the ship.
Yeah, and at that moment, the lizardman guard comes to it and seems like, as far as you can tell, might be asking a question. Like,
I think this might be weighing down the ship on this side, so we need to see what's in it to see if we need to chuck it overboard.
and it kind of stares, and it sees you pointing out the box, so it kind of walks over. He walks over and tries to pull the lid open, and it's locked, and kind of and then and he points at you and then points at the box.
Yep, so I carefully and slowly pull out a lockpick. I just point to it and nod.
And
I thought you was a reasonable chap. And then with that, he attempts to pick the lock.
okay. Let me have you make a dexterity check if you're using your thieves' tools or the equivalent.
I had here somewhere. There they are. It's gone behind the window, of course. Dexterity. There we go. That would be a 14.
Yeah, so you're, and then chunk, and the lizardman goes because inside you see hundreds of silver coins. Hundreds of them. And the lizardman sort of slowly bends down and then picks up and sort of holds up a silver coin and then and kind of tosses it down and stands up and kind of hisses angrily to itself as he storms out. Apparently doesn't care much about silver.
How much could Morthwell grab?
I suppose that depends on what Morthwell is.
Yeah. Just trying to think what would be a reasonable amount.
Let's say 490 gold. I mean, it's hundreds of gold.
What's my carry
hundreds
capacity?
of silver, sorry. Yeah, exactly.
I'll grab... I'm trying to think of weight as well. Which 50, would that be reasonable?
Sure. 50 silver should be fine. You're just going to throw it in your backpack or the equivalent?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you do so, and jingling a little bit, you are now complete with that. Anything else you're going to check in here?
Yeah, well, there's the chest here. So I may as well give that the old college effort.
That is not locked, and you open it up, and you find a tunic, some pants, and a pair of boots. These all look pretty old, but they're reasonably clean and not too threadbare.
And I would imagine probably human-sized.
That would be correct.
So he passes over on them and goes to check the books.
Okay, and there are 2 books here that you can find. One of them is titled Principles of Navigation by a guy named Dakorma, an author named Dakorma. And then that's the book that's currently open. And then there is the closed book is Legal Distinctions and Letters of Mark. I believe it's Mark and not Marquet, by an author named Tazar. And that one is closed.
Is the navigation book open on a specific page? So what would that be?
There is one, yes. And the navigation is close coastal sailing is the section that it's open to.
Okay. I think I will take both of these books for future study. So let me just make a note of those.
Be aware,
might be good.
fairly large and somewhat heavy. That you can do it, but just be aware that you're like, collecting a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
unlike Final Fantasy VII, you can't just put everything in your pocket.
Legality of letters. I just feel it may be a good idea to have someone who may be a bit read up on A, how to steer a ship, and B, what we may or may not get in trouble for doing. So that's his thinking right now. So he's going to turn his attention to that hollow that he found again.
Okay. So yeah, the hollow, as you kind of like push and pull on it, it's definitely you can hear the sound of it's a hollow sound as you kind of rap on it, and knock on it with your knuckles. Depends on whether you want to try to push it, pull it, sort of like bump into it, but it definitely seems to be an area that is depressed from the rest of the door.
It has to open somehow. That's my thinking. Is there like a candle? No, there was a lantern on the roof. I'm gonna stand on the table and then tug on the lantern hanging from the ceiling.
Okay, so make a dexterity check for me, please.
Okay. 8.
So you're like, pulling at it. Unfortunately, the table itself is nailed down, so it's not going to slide out from under you. But you're like kind of pulling at it, and then suddenly it comes loose from the hook, and you sort of fall and like sort of slams onto the table, and you fall back and bang into the door, which immediately opens. Basically, just kind of not slides open mechanically, but just kind of like falls open almost.
100% failed successfully.
Exactly.
Mortal mutters to himself, well, if anybody asks, it was a cunning mechanism.
Exactly, and it seemed like it was actually nailed shut from the other side somehow, or was used. And it might have been also that there are special nails, Morthwell, that can sometimes be like nailed and then pulled back, so it looks as if you're nailing it from the other side, but it's almost like reverse screws, I guess, to make it harder, basically, for someone to do what you just did. But it appears there has been some rotting of this area, and so it was not as strong, and it reveals a secret compartment back here. It is a cramped space, maybe only 4 feet wide at the widest, sandwiched between the adjacent cabin and the ship's stern. But you can see that on the ground are 8 large, irregularly shaped bundles wrapped in oilskin and bound with light rope. And these are piled at random on the deck as though they have been thrown in casually from the doorway.
I would like to examine the nearest one, but carefully. So first thing he's going to do, and he hasn't got anything, he's got a crowbar, I suppose, so he's going to poke it at range, because that worked out really well in the mansion.
Okay. Yeah, when you poke it, nothing happens.
Okay, no maggots explode. This is good.
No maggots.
So he's going to kneel down and try and open up one.
When you unwind it, and again, it's bound with oilskin, kind of like a tarp, right? So tarpaulin, so as you undo it and then falls open, and your eyes perhaps widen a bit as falling open you reveal 10 morning stars gleaming and ready for use. As you cogitate those possibilities, we're going to talk about Silvo, who marched past the Lizard Man guard. Were you headed up to the deck, or where were you going,
yes.
Silvo?
Oh yeah. So I'm assuming that this set of stairs that Silver is next to leads to. Is it this set of stairs? What is this? How do you get to deck?
Yeah, that would be correct. That would actually
excellent.
lead to that area
Okay, cool.
over
So he's
several
gonna-
levels. And the lizard man guard, as you walk by, is kind of like sort of like, hey, what are you
I
doing?
don't even register him. I'm just like, out of the way. That's it. And there's a quick sort of like whoop as I duck underneath his arm.
Okay.
When
Yeah,
he's
he
sort of
doesn't
like
exactly stop you. He's sort of like he looks more, well, it's
Yeah.
hard to tell if he's bemused, but
Yeah.
sort of, yeah.
If I had to guess, lizard man sort of gesticulation, I would guess bemused and shocked that
Yes.
a half elf has just run out of the room
That would be right.
with an angry looking face. So I'm going to quickly climb these steps. I'm going to come up to here near where Waves crashing against rock and another lizardmen are. I'm going to look around and I'm going to notice Brian, and marching towards Brian, I'm going to go, "Oi, you pirate! This is your fault, isn't it?" every single time we get out of trouble, you get us back into it. And there's this moment where when I reach you, Brian, I go to aggressively push you, and all I really do is place my hands on you and push myself backwards and slightly lose balance. So I'm basically just sliding down the deck at this point, and I'm like, I'm fine.
I almost don't even realise Silvo is putting any weight behind this push. I turn around and go, "Oh, hi, Silvo. Did you find anything interesting down there? What do you mean? What do you mean it's my fault? It's my fault that you didn't find anything in the hole?"
Why is the ship moving, Brian? I thought we were going back to Saltmarsh.
I'm gonna kind of speak in a hushed tone, not because I know none of the lizards on deck at the moment are the ones that can vaguely understand our speak. Is that correct? Because there's
I
one.
think one of them up here can actually. They sent one down who does not really speak well. So it's the one over. We have the Lizard Man King, who is, or whatever, the leader, right here. And then you have this guard, who I believe is the one that does speak vaguely a little bit of common. And then this one is just, again, another lizard man who does not speak other language, from what you can tell.
Okay, and I don't share any other languages with Silvo, do I? Can I say to Silvo? Okay, I'm going to say to Silvo. Do you remember that special way that we spoke to each other when we were in the haunted house?
Brian, be serious. I can't do that at the best of times. Never mind when I'm this angry at someone. Look,
Okay.
Come here. I grab Brian's wrist and I try to walk this way, and I fail because Brian's massive and Silvo's not. So there's a moment where it looks like a child is trying to lead Brian over to this door right here.
You wanting to show me something?
The
You want to show
lizardmen
me
guards,
something?
by the way, are
Yes.
very amused by this. Like they're all sort of like a couple of them. One of them is looking at the other, and they're all sort of
There's
like
a very agitated, skinny elf trying to manhandle a pirate.
They find this very
Pretty
funny.
much, yeah.
I'm going to turn to the leader and say, one moment. I'm just going to. Can you let him know that I'm just going to go and speak. I'm just going to go and speak with my crew member. I'll be back in a moment. And then I kind of pick Silvo up by the arm and take him to a far, like, I don't know if we go through that door, are we going to be where the other lizard is?
It depends on. You mean this door you're talking about?
This
Yeah.
one.
No. The other
the
lizard man
nearest
right now
door.
is still down below deck.
Okay, I just want to go to a place where we're not going to be overheard. It can be on the deck, it can be up on kind of the bow or the stern of like the main deck. It's just I want to speak in hushed tones without anyone overhearing.
Yeah, I mean, you could
Can
try
I
to go
follow
up.
them?
You could
It's
go
where
up
you want to
here.
drag me, basically.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'm
would like
gonna
to follow them.
take
Okay.
Silvo
Gotcha,
up
Waves.
to. Go on.
I
Yeah,
would
Waves.
just like
No,
to
Waves is
follow.
following
I
you.
want to listen in. I want to see what's going to happen now, and I
Okay.
want to find out
Absolute-
why Silver is not as happy as I am.
there's a brief moment. So are we going up here, can I just say? Are we going to this sort of upper deck area?
Yeah.
Right, okay. There's a brief moment where I'm trying to drag you towards this door, right? And you just start walking either in the same or different direction. And there's a moment where you just effortlessly move Silvo. And he's like, oh, wow, you really are strong, aren't you? And he's just being dragged along and doesn't realise it.
So his legs are moving, but there's no
Well,
momentum.
the deck is
happening
wet,
at all.
right? So, like, there's
Oh
deck
yeah,
is
no, it's a
wet.
lack of
He's-
traction for sure. That's,
yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
problem.
I mean, his shoes are old, the deck is wet, and he's like, what, 95 pounds soaking wet with bricks in his pocket and
Yeah, yeah.
half a bag of treasure? Like, he's not.
Not
He's
even wearing
Hold on,
cleats,
what do
I mean,
want?
you know.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so let's move
one,
ourselves up here.
yeah. So we move up here and Waves as well. I'm going to kind of speak in hushed tones, speaking to both Silvo and Waves. Say, look, we're in this together. Our crew, that is most important. What I think you should know, Silvo, before you start saying that we should head back towards Saltmarsh, is The lizard captain kind of implied that he would like to attack Saltmarsh. I don't think taking the boat back there, the ship back there, is a good idea right now. So we're sailing out to sea. I want to make them think we're helping. The ship's moving like half a knot at the moment. It's not exactly like waves like the it's not cutting through any water at the moment. So let's bide our time until we can find our weapons, and then we will find a way to take the ship ourselves. Does that sound good to you?
So Silver does hear all that, but there's a distinct feeling that he's just seething, and it's like you are speaking to an angry teenager. Like he's just waiting for the right opportunity just to explode at you. So there's a moment where you finish and he goes, "Crew, my crew is back in Saltmarsh. My boys are in danger because of me. I'm in deep with the Viper Sisters. And you know what happens if I don't show up at a regular time on a regular day? They're going to go after people I love. They're going to go after Hannah. They're going to go after Digits. They're going to go after Mumbles. All the kids, right? I cannot be. Wait, what was this about attacking Saltmarsh?
Yeah. You don't want to add some angry lizards to the mix. Let's calm down. I kind of put my hands on his shoulders in a firm, but kind of like not intense, not angry way. I'm not shaking him. I'm not aggressive with him at all. I'm just putting my hands on his shoulders. Say, cool your jets. We will get back the salt marsh, but we need to do it in the right way. We don't want to be taking angry lizards with us, do we?
They really want to attack Saltmarsh? But they can't. They can't.
That's what we need to stop. So let's just breathe. Do you want you just calm down a little bit. We need to find our weapons. We need to get these lizards away from Saltmarsh, and then we can take the ship and we can go wherever we want. And I'm looking at Waves, like with the finger guns, as well.
There's a moment where Silvo's just looking so far past the horizon. There's this glassy look in his eyes, and you just hear, I think I just need some time on my own right now. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry I was angry. I just need to go. And he heads towards the stairs.
I understand. And then, just kind of, as I'm walking back down towards where the steps are, while Silvo's kind of looking out wistfully to see, I just kind of put my hand on his shoulder again as I walk past, and then kind of look back over my shoulder to Waves, and then kind of like nod with my head and go back towards where the captain was. I'm just trying to like make it seem like we are helping out this captain. So I'm going there to be kind of amicable and positive, and but I'm absolutely not going to improve their sailing skills past the half a knot that we're currently doing against the wind with the sails in the wrong direction, and whilst we kind of limp our way through the ocean.
I was just going to use the term limping along. Yes. I should say, by the way, that while this is happening, Morthwheel, assuming that you've opened another bundle down below, what you found in the next bundle is 10 shiny longswords. And in the next bundle, 10, and you find 2 bundles with 10 each javelins, and a bundle with 10 shields, and one, rather unusual, shield that is emblazoned on the front with the design of a lizard with forked tongue extended. These weapons and armor do not look to be used, Morthwill. They look newly forged.
Do I recognize the lizard?
Go ahead and make a history check for me.
Okay. Do that with guidance as well.
Okay.
Succeeded so hard it had to think. 22. Well, we'll see.
You are not familiar with this in particular, no. There is certainly the case, that there are times when tribes of lizardmen have been threats before, but you have not heard of any tribe of lizard folk living near Saltmarsh or anything like that. But this definitely looks like something which would presumably be wielded by lizard folk, at least the shield would be. But the rest of this looks like, if you add all that up, that's another 70 or so weapons of war / shields, plus this other shield.
So in Morthal's mind, this looks awfully like someone's arming lizard people for a possible attack, or maybe just selling to them for some unknown reason. Interesting. He's going to leave and try and pull the door shut as best as he can.
Well, you could sort of do that, although it's kind of warped from the recent attack of a dwarf's body falling into it. So you can kind of like, it's one of those classics. Everything's fine now, right? And the thing's like bent halfway, and but you kind of close it, yeah.
Okay. Well, he's going to make his way up the nearest stairs because he thinks he's uncovered a possible plot of an attack. Target's unknown at this time to him.
All right, you were followed upstairs by sorry, I meant to move him, not you. Sorry, I meant to move this guy. You are followed upstairs by the lizard guard, and as you come to the deck, you can see that there is a very unhappy-looking, brooding, one might almost say, Silvo. You can see Brian looking vaguely concerned, and Waves looking eager. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that sounds about right. And the lizard, leader, basically, with his arms folded and seems to be yucking it up with one of his guards. Also, Oceanus is there, too. And Oceanus is kind of, at this point, is moved over here and is kind of leaning back with his arms, kind of his elbows leaning on the railing, kind of looking with some seriousness over at the rest of your party.
So, Morthwill is going to he takes this all in, and he's going to walk over to Brian. He's going to go, Brian, I need a word in your shell, like, come this way. And he beckons over, and he walks to the upper deck where everyone was a moment ago.
This is the deck where people go, I guess.
I follow.
The whispering deck.
I'm following.
Waves, do you follow again? I like the idea that you just like, oh,
Yes, of course.
all right. Okay, so
Nobody
you do
is
so.
as happy about this as me. I need to find out why.
Okay.
Hey, there, I found another hidden compartment down there, like the one we found our other elven friend in. Full of brand new weapons, including a particularly fancy shield with a lizard head on it. I think someone on this ship may have been off to arm lizards for some reason, and had the means to produce weapons for an army.
To arm the lizards. Did you find our weapons at all?
I didn't know, but I didn't think to take any for ourselves, because I didn't think coming up from the bottom fully armed might have been the right look.
It might have tipped them off a little bit. I wonder, the lead lizard, the head lizard, implied to me that their goal might be to attack Saltmarsh. I would hate to think that these weapons that you found would be to arm the lizards to attack Saltmarsh. But they were captives, weren't they?
Well, for what it's worth, I don't think the lizards know they're there. But the symbol was definitely of some sort of lizard hero or legend or deity. I know not what. But definitely the sort of thing you would see like a leader wielding to look fancy in battle. Someone paid a pretty penny for that.
I wonder if there is a way where we can surreptitiously ask the captain exactly what's going on below deck. But it'll be difficult to do that whilst the lizard who can understand us is listening in. Maybe we can distract him and someone can have a chat with.
We need to be careful because otherwise we're going to be giving the lizards a ship, weapons, and a location to attack.
And we don't want to be doing that. I'm facing towards waves. Can I see the two lizards that have just hopped up on?
Yep, literally just as you were finishing up that, like, so we'll have to be careful. You can see that they have ascended, and the lizard leader is standing there with his arms folded. His smile is kind of faded now, and he
And
says,
I'm going to immediately jump into. And they picked it up so quickly. You should have seen how they were steering the ship, and the rope, the knots. They even with the claws, they were able to tie them really proficient. Oh, hello. Sorry, I was just speaking to my crew about your progress, learning how to pilot a ship even.
make a deception check for me, please, Brian.
Deception check. I will absolutely do that. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I'm so unreliable with it. I'm a bad liar. Bad liar. 4.
So you say all of that, and you do not seem particularly convincing, maybe even to your own party members. They're kind of like, even though they were there, of course. And so there's a moment while the lizard leader kind of looks at you with his eyes, one eyebrow raised, basically, and then says, and the other lizard one, who speaks, barely common, says, you say, what plans, why plans you make?
What plans did we make? We've only just gotten out of the hold. I'm checking on the well-being of our crew. Being up in the sunlight, getting the fresh breeze, the salty sea air. It's good for the soul.
Bothwell chimes in. Wood bad. Ship sink soon.
And the lizard man sort of looks at you, and then turns to the leader and like makes some hand gestures and sounds in the lizard man language. And after a moment, the lizard leader sort of looks back over at you with his eyes narrowed, and he says, "Yes, Miss." And the translator says, "Leader say, why would they use ship that doesn't work? Ship worked for them, for other warm bloods. Why not you?"
Bothwell sort of, you can see him trying to work out what he wants to say in his head and then passing it through a talking to lizards filter. So he's like, cheap ship.
And so the one sort of like translates it back to the leader, and leader kind of, they don't frown obviously, but kind of grimaces and then Stan sort of like turns away from you for a moment and is just talking with the other one. And they're kind of back and forth in their language, and for a little bit quietly, and then turns around, and the translator says, "Leaders say, need more. When returned to lair, others will have more ships, and will help when go after folk on shore." Yes.
If we make it that far, one good storm and this could be right to the bottom. Now I know my companion here, she don't mind the water too much. Me, I'm more of a land dwarf.
And the leader sort of looks you up and down after the translation's been made and says, and it feels like, seems very pleased with himself. And the translator says, leader say, too bad you not born lizard folk.
I curse that fact every day.
While this conversation is going on, Silvo, you have gone next to Oceanus, who is leaning backwards, and as you get up to Oceanus, he says, and probably says this, I would say, in Elvish. He says, so, you appear to be troubled.
I just think this has gone way bigger than the alleyways I sleep in. All of a sudden, I don't really know. Do you ever feel like you're part of something that's too big to see?
And he kind of nods and he says, well, in the ocean it is always too big to see. We have our own parts to play, our own currents we must swim in. That is all that we can do. I thought that I would be able to do what was necessary for my people, but I did not succeed. Yet I must continue to swim in the current, to swim with the waves and not against them. That's all we can do.
Silvo turns around to face the ocean and leans with his elbows on the side of the railing. But how do you know which way to go? Do you just follow the current, or do you just trust you'll find your way?
No. You learn to follow the current. You learn to go where the sea tells you. If you go on shore and you see what the land dwellers spend their time doing, building great lighthouses and towers and buildings, go back to those places 50 years later. How many of them have fallen and are rotting? One can either hold back the tide in a desperate attempt to stop change, or accept that change is the only true thing, and go with those waves. My king sent me here to find out what was going on with this ship, because we wanted our lands and our world kept as much as we could the same. But I have come to learn that change also applies here, too. Perhaps we will not always have an ocean's worth of room to explore.
I think it would be easier if some king or someone would have sent me on a quest. I find that I'm just here. I think I've been spent so long just surviving day to day. I've never thought about anything further than the next sunrise. And I just don't know what to do when suddenly I see the next 100 sunrises in front of me, and some of them don't look great.
When I was in the cell, I did not know when or if I would have my last meal, or when or if I would see the sea again. All I could do was listen and feel the movement of the waves on the hull of the ship, and hope that I had not had my last time within the blue of my home. But in the end, had I simply given up and assumed that no one would come to rescue me, I would not have survived long enough for all of you to find me. We cannot know all things. I know only that the sea is there, and will be there tomorrow and next week, next year, and for all the movements of the time and the world in which we live. The ocean will always be there.
Silvo stands, looks over at Oceanus, and there's a moment where the glassy vision seems to fade slightly from his eyes, and he seems focused slightly. And he looks at Oceanus and says, "What do you know of magic?"
He sort of smiles slightly. It depends on what you call it. The magic I see from land dwellers tends to involve lots of sound and light and things blowing up. Our magic is of a different kind.
At this point, I'm going to speak telepathically to Oceanus
Okay?
and say, "I think we should talk privately about this matter, alone and undisturbed."
He nods and he says telepathically, "That is acceptable, but perhaps a time that is more amenable to it. Right now, we are on a ship sailing for somewhere, and we must address that problem before we address any others, don't you think?"
Silver just nods. And he leans back, similar to the way Oceanus is, almost mimicking the way Oceanus is standing. He says, "I don't know why. I feel strangely comforted that you're here. I don't know you. And I know these people. I have known these people longer than I have known you, but there's a comfort knowing that someone of your kind, someone who has, to me, always been stories I've heard from my father, that to me you're a magical being, like a gem dragon or I don't know what else. And I feel like, I don't know, I reach out and touch Oceanus's hand, and I just feel safer with you here."
Oceanus kind of nods slowly and says, "Well, I owe all of you much for my release. I did not think I would get my freedom. And I am grateful for one to whom I can speak in something other than hisses, or, for that matter, in the common tongue. But, Silvo, you and your friends seem to be unsure of what to do next with this place, with this ship. Will you take it for yourselves? Overthrow the lizardmen? Serve them? Become friends to them? What is your plan?"
This is still telepathically.
Okay.
I don't even know at this point. There's a thought that the lizardmen are gonna invade Saltmarsh, so I don't know what's gonna happen with that. All I do know is I know some bad people back in Saltmarsh, and I know some good people that might get hurt because I'm not there to protect them, or at least take the beatings that would otherwise go to them. And I've not said this in a while, but I just kind of want to go home. I want to go back to Saltmarsh. That's not my home, but it's the place that's looked after me for so long now.
And he kind of nods slowly and he says, "I too wish to go home. My home," he kind of jerks his head towards the water behind him, "is there. And I cannot go in that place until my mission is fulfilled, and until we discover the true purpose of this place, and of these lizard folk, and what must be done next."
Then I will help you get home in whatever capacity I can. And with that, Silvo kind of stands up, probably a little bit, I don't know, taller than he was a second ago, not quite so slouched. And he leans just with the base of his spine against the railing, and he folds his arms and he looks over to the others, or rather the lizard folk and the 3 prisoners at this point, because everybody else is on the upper deck. But he sees his sort of companions on the upper deck. And he turns to Oceanus and out loud now and says, I wonder what chaos will happen, what chaos will befall us next, eh?
And he shakes his head and says, I cannot tell. I am troubled that the lizard men are working together to sail this thing. And your companion gave them the knowledge, though doubtless for good reasons. But I do worry what will happen if they bring back everything intact. They have in the past been threats to my people and to yours.
Well then, and Silva looks over to Oceanus and now, again telepathically, whispers, although he's not quite sure why he's whispering telepathically, he says, maybe this ship shouldn't get back to where it's going. Maybe there are other possibilities.
And he nods slowly. What do you have in mind?
General chaos, disorder, and a little bit of magical intervention, perhaps? I don't know. I'm not. He holds his hand up and he takes his glove off. And you see, can I just ask, as a gameplay mechanic thing, what time of day is it?
I believe this was. This would probably be around midday because I think.
At night.
Say again?
Yeah, we snuck onto the Sea Ghost at night.
Right, but then you were overnight. You were in the
Yep.
bilge hold, and I think this
Yep.
was probably the next morning. I believe is when the lizards showed up. So
Yeah.
it's probably still mid to late morning, maybe like maybe 11 o'clock, something like
Awesome. So just for mechanics' sake, my Lifewell tattoo that I have on my arm recharges at dawn every day. So when I died, or rather I dropped to 0 hit points during our attack on the Sea Ghost, that will have recharged when we were in the bilge hold. So
Okay.
RP wise, Silver's going to remove his glove for the first time in front of Oceanus, and you can see these sort of like tribalistic marks with very slight tentacle markings on them. And for a second, Oceanus probably sees them move very slightly as Silver says, not quite sure I've figured out what it is I can and can't do yet, but tell you what, I think it's going to be fun figuring this out together. And then puts his glove back on.
And sorry, what was the last part?
And then just puts his glove back on.
Okay. And he again nods, and he says, well, if you are concerned that this ship will be used against your people or against mine, there is also another alternative, you realize.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks down at the ship, the hull, kind of below him, and then looks up at you. A ship is not much use if it sinks before it arrives. Now let me jump over to, as you're thinking about that, let me jump back over to the so-called group, the larger group, which was up on the higher deck, and take a moment just to reintroduce everybody to Pen and Pixels, episode 328, as you're watching Ghosts of Saltmarsh with the incredible D&D with GOG crew of Pyron J, Darksaber 2K, Peripheral Mike, and Ananda. If you like what you see, please follow us here on the channel. Please subscribe to us here on GOG.com, and please check out many of these players coming up on Saturday for a cool one-shot. We play this adventure once, sometimes if we can fit it in, twice a month, and play Talisman Adventures once on this show as well. So we will see what this crew is going to do. Okay, with that said, I'm going to jump up to the larger group that's up there with Waves and Morthwheel and Brine. And the two, the captain and, the leader and the translator are still kind of looking at you and then occasionally hissing to each other something in their lizard language. And Silvo is not with you. He's down on the decks talking to Oceanus.
We kind of we've got to the point where that I know that the lizard captain obviously is talking amongst themselves. I thought I was massively convincing when I changed the subject about how but obviously I wasn't, but I thought in my own for a RP point of view,
Sure.
I nailed that. They absolutely were convinced. So I'm relaxed, cool as a cucumber. And it's like, okay, I'm whilst the lizards are talking, I'm gonna kind of ask, like, can I speak to, if I used hushed tones and the lizards are speaking, do I think I can I say something to Morthwill without them listening?
Yeah, I mean, while they're not paying close attention to you, probably. I mean, you're only about 10 feet away, so it's pretty close, but you might be able to do so if it's not. You won't have a chance to have like a long conversation with him, but.
I'm just gonna like turn my head so that like my voice gets like towards Morthwill's ear, but gets caught in the wind in the other direction. We need to find our weapons.
Pretty sure they're not in the middle or lower deck.
Where else is there on the ship?
There's a few doors up on the midships that we didn't look in. Didn't think the lizard folk could buy me looking for leaks up here.
Fair. Okay. Like I'm gonna kind of like stretch and see if there's any reactions from waves.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to listen to everything.
Okay. I'm gonna kind of mosey, in like stroll casually, as casual as you can on a ship that's obviously
Stroll
only
casual.
slightly moving.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna kind of casually walk back down to the deck, and as I'm doing so, I'm gonna say to Morthwell, can you show me that that rot that you were talking about below deck?
Oh, yeah. Let's see, where was it now? So he would like to come down to here, I want to say. It seems a bit crowded where I'd like to go. Because what Morthwill would like to do is actually make his way to the wrong door by mistake and go in there.
Okay. Like down here-ish.
Yeah,
Okay.
so rather than the exit, because it looks like there's a couple of doors next to where I came up from the deck. So these two here, I think, or possibly these here, looking at the layout.
Okay. I'll go ahead.
All the while, I'm assuming I'm walking down the stairs with waves as well, and I'm going to have quite a kind of casual, to the casual observer, quite innocuous conversation about. So is this similar to the last ship that you were sailing on? And just kind of make small talk with waves as I walk back towards where Morthwill is with her.
I answer with a variety of encouraging noises.
Ah, excellent.
Okay. As you're making your way down, by the way, you notice that one of the lizard folk guards goes off with you.
Persistent buggers, ain't they?
They just moved the 3 prisoners to next to where Oceanus and myself are.
That is correct. Who, by the way, are still mostly unconscious.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I was going to make a quippy remark to the captain.
No, they are. I mean, they took pretty much a serious beating, and right now they've been kind of drifting in and out of consciousness.
Can I ask a question that I probably wrote down the answer to last session? Do we have a count as to how many lizards there are on the ship?
The ones that you've seen so far, there are, counting the leader, there are 4. You don't know if there are more that you have not seen, but there are 4 present at the moment.
Okay, and we've looked on. Obviously, we've got on the main deck and the mid deck.
The main deck and the hold. The mid deck, not the mid deck. You have not actually looked, or the main deck you have not looked on too much. There are a bunch of unopened things. here
Unopened
and
doors
here
and
here.
things. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna like casually follow Morthwheel whilst talking to Waves about kind of different features of the ship that differ from the pirate ship that I last sailed on. And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And where are you now? You can get down to where Morthwheel is right now. Where are you headed as the guard is following along with you?
Again, I'm not 100% sure. Did we come out of here or here when I came up to the deck?
You came out of no, over here.
Okay.
Yeah, you can I don't know if you can make that out, but it's
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's just gonna walk into this door, just be completely casual, not well like he owns the place, but like he's got the run of the ship, basically,
Okay.
like he's got the right to be there.
okay.
So he's just gonna walk. He's chattering away. He's like, "Yeah, well, one ship's much the same as the other. After you've been putting them together a while, after a while, you don't even see the ship. You see, mast needs fixing, chains need reforging, steering wheel gave the captain splinters. You just see the bits from my points of view. You stop to appreciate the sum
Absolutely.
of the parts." And he
Well,
pushes the door open.
a pirate ship is always in need of good repair. And I'm really glad we've got you on board. The ship couldn't be in better hands.
I'm assuming, can Silvo hear this conversation at this point? Is it quite nearby?
I would say probably, especially if Silvo notices they came down and was paying attention.
Yeah, I just mutter, bloody pirates.
And Oceanus says to you, quietly, in Elvish, "Where do you think your friends are headed?"
Technically the wrong way, but I've got to follow through on this now.
You're like, damn it.
I was trying to get to one of the other places I haven't been.
In Elvish, I will mutter, probably to find something they haven't already found. We're actually here looking for some information.
Seems reasonable. When do you want to tell them about the possible plan?
I'm sure they'll figure it out sooner or later. My concern is, how are we getting off this ship if this ship starts to sink? My other concern is, can lizard men swim?
What was that last part? Sorry.
Can lizard men swim?
Yes. Quite well, actually, when they need to. They are not particularly fast, but they are steady and rarely tire. There are many cases where they've been able to make even infiltrations and attacks upon others. They are not, I would say, as stealthy and capable of concealment as my folk, but they are cunning and sometimes dangerous.
So, again, how do we get to safety in the middle of the ocean if we sink the ship?
Well, first, there are several escape boats, and he kind of jerks his head over to here, where there is the upside-down ship, upside-down boat. And he says that's one thought. And of course also, sorry, I was just making sure I had that working. And also, there is the fact that if we can get it close enough to shore, I should be able to help all of us arrive on shore safely. At least, I think so.
Well, I suppose you can breathe underwater, so can brine, so that will also be helpful.
In the end, of course, if we would not survive it, and he kind of pauses and then says, I would gladly pay that price to avoid an invasion of my people or your own. Wouldn't you?
And Silvo, so they've both been sort of looking forward, kind of in the distance, while they've been having this conversation, muttered in Elvish, and Silvo just sort of looks at him quite sharply and goes, what if this isn't the end of it? What if we just remove a small piece in a larger game?
A game is made up of many small pieces. Remove enough of them, and you no longer have a game.
So you want to take yourself out of the fight just because you've taken one small piece off the board? You are an elf of the sea. Surely you want to protect your folk as much as I want to protect mine.
Of course I do. That is the point. By doing this, we take the chance of notifying others that are waiting for them off the table. The game becomes less useful. They are less likely to play it. Imagine what happens if they return to this place with this ship. What happens if they then have a ship with whatever else is below the hold here, and they can use this as invasion? Perhaps, if we eliminate this one piece, the rest of the board can't be used.
Oceanus, that's not how this works. I'm sorry, but this may be a small piece in this game, but we would delay the inevitable. In order to stop anything that may happen that's bigger than us, we need to fight back. We need to survive and live and carry on. There's nothing to say that the sinking of this ship wouldn't. This may just be a minor inconvenience to whoever pulled the strings of these lizard folk. We need to know that we're making a difference, not just sacrificing ourselves for the sake of, I don't know, self-righteousness.
It's not my preference, but if it is a
Then
choice...
don't do it.
And he kind of pauses and he says, if it is a choice, though, between saving my people and yours, delaying this potential invasion, perhaps removing it altogether, or myself, I know what I would choose, what it is my duty to choose. I don't intend to be foolish about it, but I also will not shy away from it, if that is what is necessary.
So Silver marches to the front of Oceanus, and he now breaks out into common for a second, and then sort of snaps back into Elvish. He says, "But that's not... You are..." And now in Elvish. "I was raised on stories that you were a noble and pious race, that you would stand up for justice, that you would protect those in need, and you were the heroes of the sea, and you were protectors of good. But you are not this story. If you were to throw your noble life away for the sake of one smuggler's ship, you're a coward. That's all you are. And I want no part of this plan. If you want to drown yourself in whatever silt or salt-infested death you want to throw yourself into, then you do it without me or my friends. We are stopping this invasion. We are stopping these lizard folk."
And so he kind of, he looks at you and sort of folds his arms, and he says, "How old are you, Silvo?"
I am 23 years old.
And he nods slowly and he says, "Well, we age somewhat differently.
So I've been told.
When I was 23 years old, I had a sense of what the world was. It was small, though, restricted. Now you, it seems to me, have been through more than I ever was at your age. You, I can tell from the way you look and from the things you say, have been exposed to more than I was when I was young. I am still young in the annals of my people, and I appreciate what you say. I do not intend to sacrifice myself uselessly, but our nobility, as you say it, is not ultimately about salvaging our own lives to the exclusion of others. If one person was to charge at you and attempt to stab you in the back, I would take that dagger in the back, Silvo, even though by doing so I would not, as you said, survive and keep going. I would do so because your life path is as important as anyone else's, and my people believe that to remove ourselves, when necessary to preserve the life paths of others, is nobility, even if we cannot see the end of it. I do not intend to oppose you, nor am I intending to commit suicide, but I will sacrifice myself, if I have to preserve even one life, let alone many others. And if this ship turns out to be the piece that would move on the board to conquer an entire race of people, or at least to be the first step in that chain, the first link in that chain, then yes, Silvo, I would do that. I wouldn't have when I was 23, but I would at 123, as I am now. And he kind of looks at you and looks back, and then
There's a moment where Silvo just looks over and just before walking away says, "It is easy to die for a cause, but it is much harder to live for one. Think on that on this voyage." And he walks away.
Okay. Okay. Are you and just to know, are you walking towards the others, or like what? Where are you walking?
Yeah,
towards?
I'm sort of walking like here-ish, if that makes sense.
Sorry. Where is it?
So I'm near.
okay.
I'm near Waves at the moment.
Okay. So waves. Yeah. You were going to say
I mean,
something. I believe.
I most likely will not have understood a word of what the discussion was about.
No, but you can read body language pretty well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I understood they were angry at each other, so I see Silvo and I greet him with a friendly woohoo! Just in the hope of cheering him up.
There's just a nod from beneath the sort of masked face of Silver, but you can see like he's trembling. He's that angry. You've seen angry people before, and you've seen very angry people before, and he's trembling.
Okay. I'll continue to try to cheer him up and just pointing out that our situation is a lot better.
By the ice breath of Oral, 'tis good to see new faces and taste freedom again.
Oh man. As you're saying these things, of course, the lizard folk guard is behind Brine and is sort of looming uncomfortably, Brine, as you get the impression is sort of waiting for you and Morthwill to go down the stairs, which are obviously now been opened up in front of you.
I'm going to follow. If Morphwill goes down the stairs, I'm going to follow.
Mortal's got to follow through on this now, even though he probably should have gone through one of the other 3 doors at this point, because I believe these are going to lead right back down to the cabin. Which I've already
You find
explored.
yourself here, actually. Hey, it's the place you started at. So you come down
Is there a
into this
lizard
spot, and
man-
you can
is
move
there
your...
a lizard folk following Brian and Morphle?
That's right. Yes, there's one of the lizard folk guards. Yeah, and
Which
it's
one?
actually the it's not one of the ones that speaks common, but it is one of the guards.
It's the one that's now next to Brian.
That's right.
Can I just move next to him real quick and just sort of tap him on the shoulder?
Oh, I follow Silver.
He also
Silver
looks
sort
at
of
you.
like- he
I head
rubs
down
his-
into the cabin.
He rubs his stomach and then it's sort of like
And
rub
the
stomach, points at mouth, rub stomach, points at mouth,
and
and
kind
then
of
makes
like
sort of like
peers
a
you.
praying, like a begging motion.
And he hisses to this guard who's on deck, and kind of points to his mouth. And the other guard says, and turns around, goes a step, then turns around and gestures to you, Silvo, as if to follow him.
Okay, I stumble and I will lean on the shoulder of this the lizardman that's next to me. Like I can't walk anymore. Suddenly, I'm too weak to stand.
Okay. The lizard sort of looks over his shoulder down the stairs, and then the other lizard folk guard comes over, and this lizard folk guard, the first one here, sort of gently takes you, and gently is a relative term, and kind of literally just like puts your hands on his shoulder and then walks down the stairs. And
Okay,
this
so
one
that
is like...
That was at least a minute, right? So what have Brian and Morthwell done in that time?
Try 30 seconds, but
Right.
but yes. So depends on what Morthwell and Brian could do in that 30-second span. What do you think?
Like, that's a short chat or something.
Well, I mean, we could get into the compartment and hold the door shut and hope they don't notice the fact that it's a bit bent.
I don't think we don't want them to find the weapons.
No.
When I see the, I mean, these are not the ones that speak common, are they?
Correct. The one that's following you, although at the moment is at the top of the stairs, seems to be dealing with something with Silvo.
Yeah. Okay, so as Morthwell comes through, he wants to stand here, and he goes, as he walks in, he goes, "There's a cloak on the door behind you. Hold it up in front of the cunningly opened hidden compartment, as if you're examining it."
Brian, this thing looks as if it's been bent in half, as if through some significant impact.
The door to the chamber with the weapons?
Yeah.
Cunningly open compartment.
Okay. The
Only
stairs
my
that
word for this.
The stairs that we've just come down, are they these ones or these ones?
They are the ones that are lower ones, but this door here is still open. So you came down this way, and it sounds like Morthwell's going up this way, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, into the compartment with the cunningly opened door.
Yeah. So you came down these stairs, but then Morthwell went up through this door.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to go into this room. I'm going to take the cloak, and I'm going to say, maybe we should go in the other direction. We do not want them to find these weapons.
At this point, you hear steps coming down, like doof, doof, doof.
Okay, so follow me. So Morthwell wants to head over to the door here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So and then he's going to step out of here.
And you see the lizardman guard is coming down the stairs.
Yeah. So he looks as he's coming out. He turns over his shoulder and says, "So yeah, it's a mighty fine cloak, and it looks like it might be more of a fit for you than a short arse like me. So I thought you might appreciate some finery after all the rough we've had."
I'm going to flamboyantly do the whole, like, sweeping, put the cloak on, put the hood up, splay it out whilst I'm stood in the doorway. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, right. Show me where this Ross is that you were speaking of.
I got all turned around. This, I guess I must have been thinking of an old ship I once worked on. But it's not around here. I think it might have been back down in the bilges, actually. I took a wrong turn.
It's confusing, I understand. When Morthwell, like, moves on, I'm assuming you're going to go in this direction?
Yeah, he's going to move to there.
I'm going to let the lizard follow Morthwell before I step through this doorway.
Actually, the lizard is going to let you follow him. The lizard is sort of staring at you with unblinking, unblinking eyes, as you're sort of in the doorway right there.
Okay, the doorway that I'm standing in, this door isn't busted, is it? It's just open.
Correct, that's right.
Okay, as I step through the doorway, I'm going to close the door behind me.
Okay.
And as I'm saying to Morthwell, we need to make sure that if there are any leaks, that we stop them from spreading throughout the ship as fast as we possibly can. So we must keep all doors shut.
Aye, indeed, with all the weight they're carrying. Like I say, one good storm and, well, you'll be fine. Can't speak as for the rest of us.
Yeah, we want to make sure everyone on this ship is safe, right? I'm looking at the lizard as I'm saying this. We want to make sure everyone on the ship is safe.
And the lizard man implacably.
Right, he's not the one that translates, is he?
No, he's not. No, which is why I was able to say to you when we were in there that we need to lead them away from the weapons, because he doesn't understand, as far as we know, or at least he can't speak common anyway.
He says, "Well, thank you for your." No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you for laying out your plans. in
Damn
front of us.
We might have got one of the dumb ones here, yes? And I look over at the lizard man and I just smile and nod. It's like, you're dumb?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Dumb as a bag of rocks.
Okay, and then I am going to follow Morthwill. Maybe we can get up to the I know that the back of the ship is the stern. What's the front?
The pointy bit.
Something.
It's the bow. The bow.
The bow.
Bow is the
maybe
front,
we can-
stern is the rear.
Maybe we can get to the rooms at the bow of the ship from that section in front.
That's where the bodies were, weren't it?
Second.
Okay.
Enigmatic.
Mysterious.
It's Gertrude's long lost sister.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I'm supporting
Yeah,
Silvo in
probably-
his charade by
I was gonna say,
seriously
probably manhandled by a
huffing
lizard.
around him and making weird noises.
Oh, I'm about to pop up right back up with you two in just a moment to hear how those things are going. So Morthwill and Morthwill and Brian, where are the two of you headed?
I think the plan is to head for here and then try a different door when we get back up on the deck. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I forget where it was now, somewhere around here. He doesn't know. But the weapons were back in that broken broom you saw back there.
Okay. Good to
I
know.
think we may need to think about scuttling this ship, to be honest. I mean, what
I
happens
mean,
when we
let's
get
not go to extremes. This is a very nice ship,
there?
and
It's all right. It's very lower budget.
I mean, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. It's
How about
nice
the
ship.
whole village
We
of
can
lizard
make this home. Let's keep that one in our back
I'm-
pockets and our
I'm just
rucksacks.
saying, a large part of this plan seems predicated on the fact that we get there, the lizard people get off, and we leave with the ship. What if more lizard people get on, and there is no getting off?
I see your point. Maybe we don't let the current occupant lizard people get off voluntarily. Maybe we drop them in the ocean before we get there.
You're an intimidating lass, but I think you're going to need a bit more than that to deal with these.
I don't disagree with you. I think we need to get the layout of this ship so that we know exactly how many we're dealing with. We also need to find our weapons, and but obviously there are weapons that we can access if we need to. But let's not arm them as well.
One quick note, by the way, Brian. The ship is definitely moving faster. It has picked up speed.
Can I, from my vast sailing knowledge,
Yes.
can I tell how and why it's picked up speed? Is it that the wind's caught the sails? Is it that they've corrected a course? Is it
Possibly a combination. Actually, two things. One, that the winds may have caught the sails. Two, that the lizard men or lizard folk may be faster learners than you thought. Or three, based on what you know, being able to manage a ship with 4 is exceedingly difficult and mostly would allow one to just kind of limp along unless there's more than 4. And of course, you were at mid decks right now. Below deck. Even.
okay? From our calculations in the last session, I wrote this down, just so remind me if I've got this correct. The distance between where we are now, or where we were when we were limping along, to where they wanted to get to, which was the Hull Marshes.
Yes, and I think I'll bring us all over here for just a moment. I believe we were talking about... let's see. We were talking about roughly, like, here-ish, right? I believe is where we were.
Yes, somewhere around there. We weren't
And this is where
we weren't that
Saltmarsh is
far
over
from
here.
Saltmarsh.
Yeah, that's right. This is maybe a little bit closer. So it's like that, but that's right there is where Saltmarsh is. This is where the quote haunted house was, right down here. And so since then you've been kind of gradually sailing this way. So probably the ship, and maybe I'll just place it. Maybe I'll just place it up on here so we can all see it. Give me a second here. Okay. Let's go with, okay. I don't know why it's that fat. It's not that. There you go. There you go. Hey. Don't. Shoot. Okay, wait. How do I do this? I go, is drawing. Which is another way of saying stop snapping this to grid. Okay. So there we go. So say that this is the ship, and it's smaller, obviously. Let's say that it's like that. You started out, you were about here. And now you are probably around here. And they had told you that, yes, you were headed for the Hool Marshes, which was somewhere around here, up there. And you are now about here. If you continue to go at this pace, you might get there in a day or so, unless things speed up further.
What I wrote down was we were 50 leagues away, or 172 miles, and we could travel at top speed at 115 miles per day. So it would probably take us about 1 1/3 days.
That's about right. Yep.
To get there.
Yep. That's
Okay.
about right.
So we have a little bit of time, not
Yep.
a lot, but we have a little bit. Okay. So the speeding up of the ship concerns me, and I turned to Morthwheel and said, "Okay, now we're on a clock, or the equivalent thereof. Okay, we do need to speed this up a bit. Let's find this rot on the ship." And I'm nodding to Morthwheel as kind of he leads forward.
Okay, and as you move around to here to presumably climb back up, I'm going to jump up to the upper deck, where at the moment Waves has been attempting to cheer up Silvo, with Oceanus watching. So, Waves, what are you doing to cheer him up, and what sort of things are you saying to Silvo? And Silvo, what's your reaction to this?
I think the last thing was that Silver was pretending to be like really, really hungry and weak of hunger.
That's right, and then had almost collapsed onto the onto the other lizard folk guard, and so
unceremoniously dumped into the arms of another lizard person.
that's right.
I'll try to like fuss around him and follow the lizard and make all kinds of weird noises while the lizard is trying to carry Silver off, and I'm definitely following them because who knows what they do to a hungry person. Maybe
Yeah.
they think it's just now they need to put him out of his misery or something. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they say, oh, thank you.
yeah,
I
so
want to
we'll
be a
have
meal
both
for
up.
you. Yes. Okay. So the lizard folk brings you over here, Silvo. And by the way, does so, basically just sort of picks you up and carries you with ease. You're reminded a little bit of Brian's, Brian's strength, although...
One of these days, I will fight back when someone tries to pick me up. But that is not this day.
I was going to say, you can certainly try if you wish, but the fact that you sort of collapsed on top of them sort of maybe have changed that.
No, I'm just like, I'll just ragdoll, it's fine.
So they carry you like kind of, like fireman or fire person coming out of the, fire type of thing with them, you in their arms. And right behind, of course, is Waves. And then they come to the door of this, and the lizard folk looks over his shoulder and calls up to what appears to be, I guess apparently is calling up to the leader, and says, And the leader kind of, nods impassively, looking outwards. And so the lizard guard turns back to the door in front and and doof, doof on the door. And there is a moment, and then the door opens. And before you actually see anything, Silvo or Waves, you smell something first. There's a distinct odor about this room which reminds you of a marsh or a swamp. It's not fetid, it's not oppressive, but it's certainly noticeable. In the center of the area that I'm about to show you is a wood table which is bolted to the deck. And on the table there is a silver jug that is half full of a red liquid. With it are 3 pewter mugs. Around the table are set 3 upright wooden chairs, and there's an unlit hooded lantern which is hanging from the ceiling above. In the gloom, you can see, just sort of barely lit by the light behind you, 3 hammocks. There's one at each end of the cabin, slung between the bulkhead and one of the ship's ribs, and the third is hanging across the corner of the cabin from next to the aft door to the central bulkhead. Each hammock is occupied by a scaled figure. Specifically, 3 more lizard folk. A small chest or box of some sort lies under the most forward hammock, and from what you can see, there appears to be weapons underneath each of the hammocks on the floor. And as the door opens, I guess I should say 2 of them have people in them, I should say. 2 of them have lizard folk in them, because one of the people got up from it so as to open up the door. And when you see them, the lizard folk sort of and kind of hiss back and forth to each other. And then when they hear whatever the lizard guard has to say, this one steps out of the way and allows you to enter. A little crowded in here. Silvo, and Waves, you can be, I was going to say, can be right behind them. So,
good. There are more of you. Hello, 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 hello.
You come over as he comes over to things. He goes over to the silver jug, and he picks it up, and then he turns around, and essentially shoves you at Waves. So Waves, do you want to? Because he basically is like, do you want to try to catch him or?
I'm more nimble than strong.
Silvo
So,
doesn't weigh a lot though.
You're more dodgy.
Yeah, okay,
than
I'll see that he doesn't fall over, but I will not try to lift him up like
Okay.
Rob does, right?
So you can kind of keep him from falling. And then the lizard folk thrusts the mug of liquid at you, Waves. Presumably you / Silvo.
I take it.
Okay. And he looks at you expectantly, and the other 3 in the room, slightly hissing and slight laughter.
I just look over at Waves and I'm like, whoa, in for a penny, in for a pound, right?
I look at Silver, and then I look into the mug, and I try to smell it.
It smells alcoholic in some form.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's fine. Okay. In that case, I'll give it back to Silver and nod encouragingly.
Silver takes at least 3 healthy chugs of this liquid.
Okay. This is kind of what you would describe as if you made wine using salt water. It's kind of like salty wine. It's a little bit like drinking an alcoholic swamp.
I can't breathe anymore.
Yes, I need you to make a Constitution saving throw for me, please, Silva.
Of course you do. I crit failed, so yeah, that's thematically on point.
So you... Wow.
In for a penny, in for a pound, right? God, pass out.
Yeah, basically. So you're like, this really isn't so cool, and then just like, you feel the room around you is suddenly, you don't know why, and you were already, I know, upset, Silvo. You don't really know why the ship has started to spin in place. Like, that doesn't feel like how this is supposed to work. You thought that the ship is supposed to go in one direction, and maybe you go left or right, but like, or whatever they call it on this bloody godforsaken thing, port or starboard, but like,
port, bow, crossbow.
yeah, you go in a
I don't
direction,
know,
and suddenly it's
pick a
very
direction, man.
spinny, and you sort of stumble a bit, and Waves, you can feel Silvo starting to like slump.
Huh. Okay, he's definitely more relaxed than he was a moment ago. Okay.
I feel pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I feel pretty good.
And the lizard folk,
Why are
they
there
kind of clap
9
each other
lizard
on the
folk
back.
in this room? It's very crowded. You guys stink. You really smell really badly. He sort of sniffs Waves like, you don't smell great either. And I live on the streets. We should bathe more. I mean, not us. And points at the lizard folk. He's like, I'm not into that. But personal hygiene is a must.
One of
I
the
wave
one.
at the lizard
oh, sorry.
folks and try to drag Silver away.
Okay.
Down the stairs, because I remember there were
these are my friends. This is fine. I'm okay.
also
with
down the
these.
stairs is easier than up the stairs.
I'm okay. This is fine.
So down these stairs you talk about? Or sorry, I beg your pardon. That's upstairs. Down these stairs.
Yeah, I remember there were hammocks down there when I was looking for stuff. There were hammocks, weren't there? I remember there were hammocks there.
There
There
were
are
rolls
hammocks,
of
but there's
cloth.
also dead bodies in there.
Oh, there were all
Oh, you
dead
mean-
bodies in there.
oh,
Yeah, no,
yes.
I don't. No, that's not what I'm looking for then.
No, it's probably not
Um,
mistaken, to be honest.
Okay. Is there any door here that we've not tried? I'm looking for a place to put Silver.
You could take him through here. We've not been through here.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what
through
they do, I mean, you'd have to go past the hammocks and the lizardmen to do that.
Through the lizard folk.
You haven't been
No, just
here
take it.
or here
Come on,
or
Come on,
here.
Silver. Let me drag you out.
I want to stay with my friends. I'm okay. I want to stay with my friends. I'm leaning against one of the lizard folk right now. I'm just like,
They're all like,
I don't know how to say this, but you are massive. I'm so impressed with you right now. Like, I'm kind of into the fact that you guys just took over this ship, and I don't know. I just wish I was that strong. I wish I was.
and they're
Am I
sort of
saying it
like
right?
they're laughing and sort of this.
Am I saying that right? I don't know if I'm saying that right.
So
So we'll just sort of slumps against. the wall.
I look at the lizard man. I point at Silver and I point at one of the hammocks questioningly.
and the lizard were like, yes, and they impassively shake their head no.
Okay, I point at Silver and I make a puking sound, and I ask again for the hammock.
And one of them like points out of the door.
Silver reaches for the mug again.
Oh, for God's sake.
It's really nice.
At this
Yeah,
point, I
what
would
did
say
you get?
Morthwheel and Brian, you emerge to see that you emerge on deck, and you can see that Waves seems to be struggling with someone just out of view inside this door. And you hear what sounds suspiciously like Silvo's voice making hissing sounds.
All you hear is like saying, "Waves, get off me! You're not my real mother."
So apparently I can't
I-
leave Silvo unsupervised either. Noted.
I
get
go,
angry at Silver. and I
I go
say,
next to.
You're
Waves.
all buffle-headed.
I try and help Waves with Silvo.
Will continues across the decks. It's just, I can't even right now.
I can't even right now. That's amazing. Silvo literally jumps on Brian, so it's basically like someone just tossed her a soggy backpack.
She kind of catches him with one hand, and
This
it's
is
like,
my
oh,
friend. I turn over to Elizabeth. I'm like, she's my friend. She's a pirate. She's very strong. She hasn't got any swords though. She can breathe underwater. It's very impressive.
Brian.
I look over to
sorry.
Brian. I'm like, you know, I was sober for months. Then these lovely people gave me a drink, and now I feel fantastic. I'm not worried anymore. I probably need to be sick, and I'm not quite sure why we're swimming in circles.
I'm going to kind of gently take Silvo to. If I go over here, this is kind of looks over the edge of the ship. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. That's the railing.
Okay. I'm gonna gently carry Silvo to the edge of the ship.
Okay.
And basically hold his hair over the side of the ship. I don't know what's happened in this room or anything like that, and all I can see is waves trying to move Silvo.
You should try the red liquid. It's a proper banger. You should try the red liquid. It's amazing.
Maybe
It's
later.
fantastic.
So if Silvo is able to be sick, then I'm gonna try and carry him back. I'm assuming I saw the hammocks when I kind of helped wave with Silvo.
Yes, I would say that's fair. You also saw Oceanus kind of looking impassive, I guess, just sort of watching all of you do what you're doing. But yes, Oceanus is back here. But yeah, inside there you did see hammocks, and you saw perhaps less welcome. You saw a few more of the lizard folk.
Okay. And then, in which case, if Silvo has been sick, which was the kind of aim, and if he's having trouble, then we'll talk about the motion of the boat and like just help it along.
I don't want to be sick. I just want to. I want to go hang out with my new lizard friends. There's Hissy McGee, and Hiss McKiss. They're fantastic. I mean, Hiss McKiss has fantastic stories about his boat. You should hear the way. Has this boat always been moving like this? I don't know.
Deep breaths.
Why is this? Why?
Deep breaths.
Why am I? I don't. Oh God. Oh.
That's it. And I like pat him on the back. As he like, okay, just let it go. Let it go.
Silvo is currently an unattended garden hose on full power. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Like that scene from Team America.
Yeah.
Oh,
pretty
jeez.
much.
And then I'm gonna kind of like pick him up in my arms like a babe, and then carry him back towards where I saw some hammocks. And I'm gonna say, you need to let this man lie down right now. He needs to sleep this off. And then I'm not even gonna wait for them to acknowledge. I'm gonna put him in. Sorry, my cat's in the way of my mouse. I'm gonna.
That often happens.
Yeah. I'm gonna lay him on this hammock here.
They're gonna hold up a hand first. They are not gonna let you put them on the hammock. When you go to do that, one holds up their hand and sort of points out towards the main deck, and one of the one who has by this point come back down to the deck walks over and says, "What's wrong with that one, sis?" Seems to be
Sorry,
pointing
can
like
you say that again?
says something to the effect of, "What's wrong with that one?" Like pointing at Silvo.
He's not had much grog. He's a youngling. He's only had grog a few times, and it takes a while to be as big and strong as you and your crew. We need to be a little bit gentle with him until the grog wears off. I'm assuming that they all saw him being sick over the side of the ship.
Yeah, many of them did that were there, and so he says, "Hammock down," or no, he didn't say hammock. "Sling downstairs. This place.
I am not putting a sick man in a room with all the dead bodies. I don't think that is going to help settle his stomach and prevent more sickness. He needs to lie down up here.
And so he kind of looks over his shoulder at the leader, and the leader kind of seems to kind of thinks about it, and then yes, and waves sort of almost casually a hand towards where Morthwill has been going. And the guard who speaks common says, "Yes, bring in here." Yes. And wanders over to where Morthwill has been standing next to the door.
Morthwill continues through the door. He's just ignoring everything at this point.
Waves continues through the door.
Okay. So, when you open this door, ding, you see
Silver's just like, right, I don't feel very well. I don't feel so good.
and the so the guard sort of goes past you and kind of comes. This place that you were in here seems to be, if you had to guess, one of the master cabins. The furnishings and fittings are of good quality as opposed to just about everything else you've seen in this ship so far. And the place is tidy as opposed to almost every other place you've seen in this ship so far. There is a single bunk which is made up with bed linen, with its head up against a bulkhead running along the center line of the ship. And that's the bunk that the lizard guard goes near and then kind of points at. There's a polished wood table that's standing in the center of the room and appears to be bolted to the deck. And on the table is a silver bowl with an assortment of fruit. There is a silver carafe half full of a light red liquid that may look disturbingly familiar, perhaps to Silvo, I might say. And set at the table are 2 upright wooden chairs and a padded leather chair. And on the deck towards the stern is a wooden brass-bound chest. Beside it is a pair of highly polished black leather boots. And from the center of the ceiling, over the table, is an unlit hooded lantern. And again, they're pointing at that bunk that's down there.
Well, in the meantime, Morthwill wants to just give a quick once-over with the walls. He walks around just tapping everything with his hammer, checking for boat weevils, if anybody asks.
Okay. Are you actually looking for something besides boat weevils in reality?
No, I'm just making a show of having a look around the room before
Gotcha.
I leave immediately.
Okay. All right, you do that and then depart. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. So for Silvo and Waves and Brian, Brian, you're carrying Silvo basically. So I mean, where do you want to put him, or you want to put him where the lizard folk is indicating you should, or elsewhere?
I mean, if they are insistent, I mean, I'm going to press the point about the hammock a bit, but not.
They seem to be not anxious to have you sleep or like have him there or in that room with the other lizard folk, for whatever that means.
Okay. I'm again. I didn't clock the weapons, did I?
What do you mean by clock?
I didn't see the weapons when I looked in the room.
You did not. No.
Okay.
But there was
In which
definitely
case,
a
I'm gonna
door
go-
at the far end of the room, so you know, like with the lizard folk. There was a door on the other side of it.
Okay. In which case, I'm gonna take Silvo to the bed, and so he can try and sleep it off a bit.
As you're carrying Silver to the bed, there's this muttering and like a hand sort of, because you are a giant, Silver, right? He's a small, and you realize at this point he is very bony. Like he's super light. He wears like a flowing coat and stuff like this, and baggy sort of peasant's trousers, but he's really, really skinny. So it's like carrying a loose toolbox essentially in your arms. But there's a moment where he sort of like grabs the cloth on your chest. He's like, I can't go to sleep. I can't go to sleep. If I go to sleep, the demons will get me. I can't go to sleep. But by that point, he's already passed out.
It'll be fine. Don't worry. And I'm gonna just like I'm gonna not ignore it as ramblings, but it'll be fine. Don't worry. Just sleep it off. And
You
kind
say
of gently,
ramblings, you know. I'm
and
sure
then
it's
gently put them
fine.
in bed and tuck him in and like do the proper tuck under the covers so he can't roll out. I'm gonna have a look around to see if there's some kind of receptacle or bucket that I can put next to the bed in case he needs to be sick.
Well, there is the silver bowl with fruit in it, and there's a silver goblet, and there's a silver carafe which is full of this light red liquid.
I'm gonna distribute the fruit whilst keeping a nice piece of fruit for Silvo.
Okay.
So I'll give some fruit to not to all of the lizards, but I'll give some fruit to Morthwill and Waves, and I'll keep a piece for Oceanus as well.
Okay.
And then I'll put the empty silver bowl on the floor by the bed.
Okay. So just so Silvo, you're here now, right? Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I just saw the
Apologies.
Cypress good comment in chat.
There you go.
Distribute the fruit.
Distribute the fruit. Okay. So you are now. So Silvo is just hanging out there, snoring away, and I'll come back to Silvo in a minute. But before I do, where are you going to go, Brian?
Where am I going to go? I'm not going to leave.
Or are you just going to stay here
Silvo.
with him? Okay.
I'm not going to leave Silvo with the lizard in the room. If the lizard like comes back out, then I'll kind of.
He
eye
does
on the
seem to
door,
kind of
but-
move like basically he seems like he's moving to the doorway, and then sort of
Okay.
stops there.
In which case, I'll move with him, but I'm going to leave this door open so I can hear any shouting if necessary.
Okay. Then we're going to talk next about Waves, and then Morthwill, and then back to Silvo. Waves, you were watching some of this happen. Where are you going at this point?
I am opening the door that I'm standing next to.
Okay. Are you trying to do so like kind of stealthily, basically?
There's a lizard standing behind me. I'm not sure I could be stealthy in full view of anything, so I'll just open the door.
I see. Okay. So. All right. When you open this door, and so far no one seems to say react or anything when this door opens. This seems to be, if you had to guess, what looks like the ship's galley, because there's a crude metal stove, which is not lit, that is leaning against the hull, and it has an adjustable metal chimney that you can see Waves can be placed through a vent hole in the ceiling when it's opened. Next to the stove, there's an open metal bin containing sticks of wood kindling, and besides this, there is a large wood table which is bolted firmly to the deck with a thick top that's crisscrossed with score marks, and the table has a large drawer. Hanging from hooks set into the hull above the table are 2 iron frying pans, 2 saucepans, and a skillet. And set against the bulkhead opposite is a large cask that is filled with clear liquid. Beside this stands a wooden cupboard, and against the bulkhead beside the forward door, there is a wooden upright chair, and hanging from the center of the deck above is, say it with me, an unlit hooded lantern, which seems to be a big popular decoration here, so to speak. And there's also this door, of course, that you can see right against on the wall opposite the door from where you're standing.
Okay, I go inside and take a general look around to like make sure that because I know that kitchen and open fire is very dangerous on the ship, so I make sure that the fire is out, have a quick look through the rations if there are any.
Okay. There don't seem to be any here. You don't see any obvious like pantry or anything like that in this spot.
Okay. that's fine. Just taking a quick look around that everything is fine.
Okay, and you notice at this point that there is also a lizard guard that has now come to the room and has not stopped you, but is just sort of staring in, watching you as you're doing what you're doing.
Okay. I take a sniff at the clear liquid to see whether it's like schnapps or water.
Your guess would be water, from what you can tell.
Oh, nice. I take a sip.
Yep, it's kind of brackish and not the best water you've ever had, but it's, not poisonous.
Yep. I try to find a cup. I think Silver might need this.
Okay. Yeah, there is. If you want to open the cupboard, you could try to do that. The cupboard has a bunch of these tin mugs and tin plates
Wonderful.
and wooden platters, and there's a metal dipper, like to dip into the bucket of water.
Yep. Awesome. I do that, and then I stroll off to find Silver and bring him some water.
All right. In the meantime, you notice that Oceanus has sort of come over here and is kind of sort of waiting, kind of looking up and down at the lizard leader, and also looking over at Morthwheel in there. So as you're headed this way, first the DM coughs. Secondly, we ask what is going on with Morthwheel, and as I said, I'll come back to Silvo. Morthwheel, what are you doing?
He's going through this door that he's next to.
Okay. Now, when you do this, just as you're trying the door, you suddenly hear a sound behind you, and it's a and vaguely menacing maybe. And as you kind of look around, you can see that it's the leader of the lizards kind of staring down at you.
Gotta check for boat weevils. You had some down in the hold that we had to fight off. You might have an infestation. Sink us sooner than I thought if you have.
And the leader kind of narrows his eyes and then looks over and calls for this one. Or apparently calls, because, hisses, and then this one comes over. And when he does so, comes over and the leader hisses to them, and then this one, who is the one who speaks common, sort of, says, "Yes, he say, this his room now. This."
I don't want to take his room. I just want to make sure it's not being eaten by boat weevils.
Yes. And then he kind of translates it, and then, leader responds, and then he says to you, the translator says to you, "Yes, weevils. What weevils? What is weevils?"
They lay eggs in a tray. Are you sure you got time for this? They're a very fascinating creature, you see. What they are, there's a type of beetle, and they live about a week. But they lay their eggs in trees, and then the trees are cut down, and the trees are turned into planks, and then the planks are turned into boards, and then the boards are nailed together, and they make a ship. And the eggs can lie dormant for many, many years before they finally become activated by life. I don't know. I am no druid. You'd have to ask them about the life cycle of it itself. But they can come around, and then they start chewing through all the
So as
wood.
you're saying all this, like he's starting to translate it, and then clearly somewhere around activated, you've lost him completely, and he's just like, "Yes, this," and you can see the leader is getting more and more like. And the leader just hisses something somewhat angrily sounding to the translator, who says, "He say, this dangerous?"
Only if you want to keep your ship.
And the make a deception check for me, please.
Oh, no. Okay. That'd be a 12.
Yeah,
Wardle thinks he's done well.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't, he's kind of, yes, and he kind of hisses sort of angrily, and then, yes, and kind of waves his hand, waves one clawed hand, and the translator says, "Yes, you go in, not for long. We with you." And the leader walks up and sort of self-importantly opens the door to reveal what looks like to be much the nicest cabin that you have found to date. It's clean. Its furniture is in good repair. There is a single bunk made up with bed linen. that you can see has the head of it against the sort of, I guess that would be the starboard side of the room, basically, running along the center line of the ship. And there's a writing desk that is set against the hull toward the stern. It has a drawer on each side and 3 trays on the top. And on the desktop, just in front of the trays, is an ink pot, 2 quill pens, a small knife, and a pewter container that resembles a pepper pot. Against the desk is set an upright wooden chair, and beside it is a wooden brass-bound chest. Against the hull on the starboard side, there's a padded leather couch, and in front of it, a bearskin rug lies on the deck, while beneath the couch can be seen a large metal box. And guess what's hanging from the ceiling?
Is it our weapons?
No, but it is an unlit hooded lantern. So
Close.
there you go. And so that's what you see, and they're like, the leader is like right next to your shoulder, basically. You can feel the hot breath.
I don't think I can do much in the way of audacious behavior. I'll certainly make my way around the room, tapping wood, poking it. At one point, you swear it looks like I break off a flake and taste it.
Okay.
really just milking a performance as best as I can.
Yeah, the leader is like practically, attached at the hip to you as you go around. Seems very anxious not for anything to get messed up in this room. You can also see that the bed itself, the blankets and so on, are kind of tossed around and everything. And your guess is that this is where the leader has decided to make his place, since that's where the captain was before.
Yeah. How big's the gap under the couch?
Probably maybe a foot.
So I could sort of squeeze in like I'm found something I'm investigating. Say, if I'm like, got to check out all the gaps.
You could certainly reach underneath the couch, sure.
Yeah, I'd like try and get my head under for a look as well.
Okay.
I'm not that I'm implying I'm trying to unlock the chest or anything, but at least see what he does if I try and go near it.
So when you kind of look underneath, he literally, like, you have a moment where you like lower your head and then this, and like suddenly you have the uncomfortable sensation of the lizard leader's head is right next to yours, kind of hissing quietly.
They like the dark and the damp.
And kind of is waiting for you to be finished. Is not about that. I'm going to let you do whatever, life.
Yeah.
Very much seemed to be, like I said, attached at the hip.
Yeah, so I'm just going to make a show of checking the rest of the room. I will tug on the lantern hanging from the ceiling as I make my way out, just to give that a test.
Seems to be normal.
Integrity.
Yep, seems to be normal.
Okay. Hey, well, it looks good in here. But you definitely had some down in the hold. You might want to check for leaks later.
Yes. And he hisses something to the translator, and the translator says, "He say you should get ready. Ship going to move fast now. When all the wind comes."
I see. I better check in with my friends. See what kind of mischief they've been getting up to without me.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave there. So.
Okay. Just before I jump back to Silvo, I do want to mention that Oceanus comes over close to you, Waves, and kind of looks at you, and then at one point says something to the effect of, quietly, like under his breath, "What do you think must be done with this ship, Waves?"
The ship is ours!
And he sort of looks at you and he says,
Okay.
"But at the moment it's not yours. It is crewed by lizard men." And
I agree.
What happens if this ship gets back and these creatures come upon it? What would you do with the town?
Abracadabra.
And he kind of looks and like tilts his head. It's like, "You think we'll have to trust to luck? Magic?" And he kind of like...
Sorry,
Yeah, go
wrong
ahead.
button. She shakes her head.
It's a spell.
What spell?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm pushing you for a lot of soundboard work. Go ahead. Sorry, do that again.
Might be too loud to go through.
I heard a a crash of waves. Is that...
It should be like a boom.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, like a whoosh.
And he
More,
says...
more like I pressed the button for thunderous smite.
I got you. So, and he says, so if necessary, you would sink the ship?
I nod.
And he nods slowly and he says, I don't know that your friend Silva would agree.
I pat him on the shoulder, reassuring him.
And he nods and turns, and Brian, as you are sort of standing or, coming out to the sort of door, you could just depart if you would, like leave completely the room. I know you said you didn't want to leave with a lizardman in it. There's one standing right outside the door, and I don't know if that counts for you or not.
As long as I'm between the door and the lizard man, I'll step out and hand Oceanus the piece of fruit that I saved for him.
And he nods and says, thank you. I am used to eating things more from the sea, but this is welcome. And he has a bite of this fruit. While you are, and as you're doing all this, by the way, all of you can feel and see now, as you look up, excuse me, that there are multiple lizard men now that are up on the mast and that are basically, essentially securing the sails. And Brian, it occurs to you as you are looking up there that they've picked up on your rudimentary lessons about sailing fairly well. And you wonder whether or not perhaps they are indeed more cunning than has been given credit for, because the ship is beginning to make more headway. And as the wind kind of continues and you press inexorably to the west towards the destination, apparently, of these Hool Marshes. While you were looking up at that, Silvo, you are wandering through a dream. It is a dream in which you are looking you're looking for something, you don't remember quite what, and you are in maybe it's a warehouse or a massive house of some kind with multiple small rooms that all look identical. And in the center of the ceiling of each of these rooms is an unlit lantern. And by the wall of each of these rooms is a hammock. And on each hammock is a sleeping lizard folk. And you're kind of, as you're going through the rooms one by one by one by one, you're going along until you reach one room. And instead of the lizard in the hammock, you can see that there is someone or something else turned away from you, like with their back to the door that you've entered.
Hello? Do you know where I am?
No response.
Do I recognize this person from the back?
You do not. But it's not a lizard man for sure.
I will walk forwards and touch this person on the shoulder.
So you touch them on the shoulder, and there's a moment's pause, and then, quite suddenly, they turn, and you hear, "You still have something which belongs to me, Silvo. It has not been left. It has not been lost. And I will find it eventually." You find you're looking at the face of Sanballat. And Sanballat kind of, rocks up out of the hammock and stands up to face you. And you can see kind of a cruel smile on his face. And he says, "It seems you've gotten yourself into a bit of trouble, Silvo. Perhaps you should have taken the offer I gave you instead of leaving us behind and trying to betray me. It won't work, you know. You won't escape me, and neither will your friends, if they are still your friends."
And with that, I realize I'm not trembling anymore, and I'm very calm. And I look at Sambalat and I say, "I've been here before." And I look at the ceiling and the walls. And I realize when I look at the floor, there's actually multiple versions of this room that I'm looking at. And I look at the ceiling, the suspiciously unlit hooded lanterns repeated over and over again. And the air feels thick like syrup. And I realize that I've been in this place before. And however this person has found me here, I have some semblance of control. So I look at Sambalat and I say, "You're a tiny piece on this board, Sambalat." And I run towards him and I place a hand on his chest and I push as hard as I can. And neither I nor Sanballat move, but the whole reality around us shifts, and there's visions of space and time and liquid and solid. And I scream and he screams, and there's magic and fire and ice and lots of different emotions. And I suddenly awake, casting arms of Hadar in the bed that I am laying.
What's that look like?
There are thick, black, magic-infused tentacles stretching out 10 feet in every direction from my body. I am screaming in this bed, and they are tearing at the bed, the walls, the ceiling, the floor, and Brine, who is the nearest person to me, nearest compatriot to me, can hear this. In her head, can hear this dark speech, this thick, black voice echoing in her skull. The voice of the void, just repeating words that she can't understand. And walls are being torn down and furniture is being torn apart in this room, as you hear Silvo's screams just echo from the back of the ship.
So, and I would say also that Morthwill, probably everyone close by can hear it. The lizard man comes over and kind of like, hustles over and looks in and then hisses a warning. And several, the lizard leader and everyone else comes out. Waves, you hear this as well. Morthwill, I mean, I at this point, I would assume everyone is like there and knows about that.
Yes. It's not a quiet announcement.
And Oceanus kind of pushes just like not past you, Brian, but like just to the side to kind of look in, and then kind of looks up at you with wide eyes, Brian, and says, "If you don't stop him, he'll take down what's left of this ship. And I don't know if this is the way you intended to go, but it might not be the way he would have intended."
I'm gonna turn to Oceanus and nod. I understand what he's saying. Can I look at what kind of reaction the lizards are having to this?
Well, when the lizard man comes over, the lizard man guard, and then the leader, and they kind of push past you a little bit, Brian. The leader, and says a couple things to the guard, and the guard nods and basically kind of pushes you away, Brian, I mean, unless you draw a weapon or, try to fight back, but just pushes you away and slams the door.
I'm going to put my foot in the door. My first reaction
Yeah.
is to get to Silvo. What I want to try and do is get to Silvo and put my arms around him to gently restrain him, but also to try and wake him up.
We have to talk about this with the Arms of Hadar. Silvo, how is that going to work as Brian tries to make her way to it?
Basically, the arms are everywhere. Like, if anyone's ever seen Arms of Hadar, it's basically many tentacles stretching out 10 feet in a sphere, just whipping uncontrollably in every direction. Like, the hooded lantern has been ripped off the wall. And you notice as well, Brian, when you enter the room, these aren't, like, you've seen cephalopods in pain and anger, and these aren't like flailing uncontrollably. These are directed. Like, one has gone for the chair and smashed it against the wall, one has gone for the table and ripped a leg off, one has gone for the wall and ripped off several pieces of wood, that sort of thing. These are directed attacks. So the minute you get within 10 feet, you would need to make a strength saving throw or take damage.
So if you're going to stop them from doing this, I would say, Brian, that you would have a chance to react just in time to get into the room. And then, as I say, the lizard folk are trying to slam the door. So, but they could try to do that. I mean, you can try to get in if you want to do that. So if you're still going to try to make an effort to hug Silvo, then we'll have to talk about doing that.
If the tentacles aren't letting me close by, I'm gonna try and get into the room, and I'm gonna start yelling and shouting and trying to snap him out of it. It's Silvo, it's me. Calm down. It's okay. We're not gonna hurt you. And try and parry as much of, because I don't have a weapon.
Yeah,
So
you're outside the sphere, I think. If there's a 10-foot sphere, you can be right there, right at the edge of the door,
absolutely.
And then standing and like yelling in the way that you've just described.
Now, one thing I just want to ask: Are you physically yelling this? Because you heard a weird voice in your head, and the only other voice you've ever heard is Silvo's. Well, as far as I'm aware, the only other voice you've heard in your head is Silvo's. So you don't know if this came from Silvo. But unless this is the only time you've had telepathic communication with someone, you're pretty certain this might have come from him.
I also don't quite understand how it works. As in, Brian doesn't understand quite how it works.
Right.
So the yelling is verbally, but also like in my head. I am screaming both internally and externally to try and snap you out of it.
Okay.
While this screaming's going on, Morthiel would like to turn and poke the lizard leaser, and he just shouts, "Need weapons!"
And the
against this backdrop of tentacles and unholy screaming.
Make a persuasion check for me,
Okay.
Morthwell.
Let me try. 11.
The lizard leader and kind of pushes you away and seems more concerned about the other stuff than the weapons, or at least getting you your weapons. And at this point, several of the other guards here have come and are all sort of like, kind of hissing. A couple have run out of this room and are all like hissing and looking to the leader for a reaction. Waves, what about you? Are you doing anything? And then I'm going to come to Brian, and
Yes.
we're going to wrap here in a second.
I'm also trying to get into the room, and I'm still carrying the mug with the water.
Okay. So you can see, like, the door is still open, although the lizard folk are trying to close, but Brian is on the other side of it here, I think, if I understood what Brian said.
But
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm trying to get next to Brian, and I want to throw the water at Silvo. And shout at him.
Stop blowing holes in my ship!
Brilliant.
I would say, let me have you make a... I'm going to have you make a wisdom check here, Silvo. Not a saving throw, a check.
Check. Bear with me. Wisdom.
Yeah, basically that was it, nonstop.
20.
you are suddenly aware of the yelling of your companions. You are suddenly aware of the water that has struck you. And as your sort of like the screaming around you is faded and you're kind of sitting up and awake, is sort of aware, there is one voice that kind of echoes still in your head. And it is amusing, but it will not save you. Sanballet is not your enemy, and I await you still. And as you come to, you see the horrified expressions of Brine, a very disturbed-looking Waves holding a mug, and probably Morthwill, I would say, right behind the door, maybe like looking around the corner. And
Just pull my legs up to my sort of torso, like tuck myself in as much as I can. Bits of wood and wall just falling off around me. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And Oceanus says, looking around, we need to talk. This problem is bigger than a ship and an invasion. And that's where we're going to bring our session to a close.
Oh, cliffhanger.
Woo! Good work, folks. We had a lot going on there. There was a lot of very tense, like, secret agent, everyone trying to figure stuff out while not throwing off the lizard guards that are kind of walking around and everything. That
was so much fun.
Man. And then, of course, we got stuff going on with things man was not meant to know with Silvo also. So there's stuff happening for sure. I'll start at the bottom right with... it's interesting, Ananda. Brian's knowledge of sailing and knowledge of ships and all that has been very useful, I think, in this whole section, because it's also given Brian some information about what might or might not be happening and, why they're able to move. So when you had that immediate reaction of, well, why is the ship moving faster? That's a problem. And then you're like, oh, because there's more people than just the 4 people I saw on deck. Then all of a sudden that sort of escalates things considerably. And as I said in chat, there was a lot of kind of coming from Brian, firm but gentle mom energy with Silvo, with you just being like, all right, Silvo, listen to me, that kind of thing, the whole time. And then, of course, the reaction that we had at the end when Silvo had his, his breakout reaction that we just talked about because of this vision or dream. So there was a lot going on with Brian having to figure stuff out and kind of keep the crew together, and there's going to be a bit of a challenge as all of that continues. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I always enjoy our Ghosts of Saltmarsh sessions. My first thoughts when that happened was I need to get somewhere where I can figure out how I'm going to sabotage this ship without sinking it. But that is something for next session. I really enjoyed it. I love Brian as a character, but I also love the dynamic with the rest of the crew as well. Yeah. I think Brian and Silvo's relationship is quite is an interesting one. Waves and Brian are very much on the same page most of the time. We have a similar sense of, well, if someone needs help, we'll be there.
Yeah.
And very much a teamwork kind of effort. Morthwill is very much a pragmatist and does not want to be led down a garden path, as it were. Whereas Silvo is kind of butting heads with Brian a bit. Not because I don't think he likes her. I mean, the drunken display as well. I mean, you could do, he's my friend. Gunn would made it more obvious. But Silvo, I think, is not naive, but scared of himself in those situations because he doesn't know, as we've seen, quite how he's going to react. But it's a great dynamic. I love this crew and this session. And yeah, looking forward to the next session already. As far as where you can find me, I will be on my own channel for the rest of this week. I have been playing Night in the Woods, which is a super cute point and click adventure, but with some quite dark undertones. I'm also trying, attempts have been made to try Dark Souls 3, which is outside of my comfort zone completely, and I'm rubbish at it. However, I'm also
That's not
really
true.
stubborn.
That's not true. I've been watching you. You're all right.
Okay. Like when you say all right, I've died 76 times and I haven't beaten the first boss yet. So attempts have been made and will continue to be made. And then on Saturday, I'm over here. And then Saturday evening, it'll be ARVCon, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yep, one shot, which will have a different. Now, I mean, I have to say that there is a good deal. There is some lightheartedness about this adventure, but there is an element of darkness behind it, as you can tell. I mean, it is Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and so there's. But don't worry, Chad. This is not going to become a horror campaign, but it is. There is an element of darkness behind it that sort of comes in. Whereas on Saturday, I mean, I won't spoil it, but it's going to be. There will not be darkness. I'll just put it that way. At least not on purpose. I guess unless chat's like no, unless the player's like no, we are determined to darken the world. In that case, I can't help you out. But
I'm playing Strahd. I don't know how you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's called Joke of Strahd. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, but it was good stuff today, Ananda, and I am looking forward to seeing how you do with the one shot, and also having you back for this next month. So thank you. Good stuff. Mike, obviously, very good stuff, of course, from Silvo today. Silvo has been an important character because of the way that Silvo sort of plays off of each character. We've talked about this a little bit with Silvo's frustration and vice versa with Waves, because Waves, has had some issues with Silvo and being like, yo, what is going on with you? Morthwheel obviously has been like, I've got to look carefully after this person, although I get the impression there's a bit of fondness there somehow, somewhere buried down below, despite the frustration that Morthwheel has about him, and the fact that Silvo finds what Morthwheel does cool as well. So there's that. And then as we talked about, that energy that Inanna just talked about with Brian, I think is there also. And yeah, there is. It's going to be. It was, and also I should say the moment. So some really interesting character moments with Silvo and Oceanus too. And the idea of Oceanus, who sort of is, that Silvo obviously views in this vaguely awestruck, but then super frustrated kind of way, because like, no, this is not how you do things, like don't give yourself up or whatever. So there's some very interesting, I think, energy on multiple levels with that. And obviously that was a sort of area where people were like, oh, that went a different direction than I might have expected. So that little darkness at the heart of this is part of what this story has been for Silvo. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I, as always, absolutely adored it. I'm very impressed that I think it's very easy for people to think that a lot of the stuff is scripted, but 99.99% of it is just made up as we go along. And I think that's a credit to, I mean, our characters are good, don't get me wrong. We, as a team, I think we make good characters with interesting backstories. But as a world builder, I think credit really needs to go to yourself, because we throw some random curveballs your way every now and then, and you just deal with it, and you're like, okay, cool, I'll just deal with that, and that'll become part of the story, and that's clearly a backstory moment, so we'll just roll with that. So I don't know. I just want to say a big credit to Arv just for being such a versatile DM/GM, and just being able to take moments like that. Like, this is not like a couple of hours ago. I was literally talking. Well, for a few hours ago, I was literally talking to my wife about how I thought the session was going to go. This is not how I thought the session was going to go, and this is not how much like character information I thought would be given up. And that conversation with Oceanus, definitely not how I thought would go. But like you said, that's the immaturity of Silvo kind of coming out in regards to his kind of approach to the world. And there's going to be a number of sessions and a number of levels even. So apologies if this annoys anybody in chat, but you're in for the long haul, where he is finding himself in the world, and he will mature. It will get better. He will mature as time goes on. But right now, he's still impetuous. He's still bloody minded. He's still bullheaded, etc., etc. So he's very set on his path right now. So once he figures a few things out, I mean, he's starting to figure a few things out now. He'll get his head around what's happening and sort of what's important to him. But I don't know. There's a few bits and pieces of Silver's backstory that came to light today that I wasn't expecting, but I'm really glad that they did because they made sense. And the back and forths, there's definitely a paternal element there with Silver and Morthwheel in regards to the last session and this session. And there's 100% a sibling rivalry energy between Silvo and Waves, and there's 100% a caring maternal energy between Silvo and Brine as well. So I think he's sort of many things to many of the party members, and as time goes on, that those relationships will mature and develop and change, and so will his sort of views on life. So I'm dead excited for it. I'm dead excited to see, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, however long we're running this campaign for, I'm dead excited to see how these characters mature. But if you want to find out more from myself, you can find out more about myself all on social media at Peripheral Mike. I'm not streaming at the moment, but you can follow all of my exploits on Twitter, normally on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also documenting all of my strongman journey because I'm currently training to be a strongman by the end of the year on Instagram at Peripheral Mike. So check that out if you're interested.
Good stuff. Thanks, Mike. And yes, so am I interested to see how everyone manages as well. Saber, again, Morthwheel absolutely was, while everyone else was doing their, we've got character moments, I'm figuring out about the ship, I'm doing, I'm looking for water and wine and checking out the galley. Here's Morthwheel being like, I'm going to check out every part of the ship. Can I open this? Okay, what about this? Can I open that? Are there weevils? I love the description of what the wood weevils are and all that stuff. And I could tell you even more about this. And I'm like, how far along do I go with this path? So that was a lot of fun. And again, I am very curious to see, because Morthwheel is so steady, Brian and Morthwheel both are steady in different ways, but Morthwheel's so steady, albeit, and a pragmatist, albeit sometimes just being like, oh my God, and again, we talked about the lawful good thing, but I think it's also, Morthwheel trying to kind of engineer things, calculate, how do I get this group through, and the discovery of the weapons where you were doing high level calculus math where you're like, oh, that's bad. That's weapons smuggle. That's weapons trade or whatever. That's bad. All of that stuff was really fun to watch. And it'll be interesting to see, I think, how Morthwheel responds to next session to what he has just seen also with Silva. That's going to be interesting too. How'd you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
It was a lot of fun. It was weird, actually. I think I posted in chat. It weirdly reminded me of Space Station 13, for those of you who know that game, which is this insane online RPG for insane people, but it's a game of various different pockets of chaos, and in the middle of the pockets of chaos are various people who are just trying to do the actual job. You've got a janitor who's just trying to mop the floor while there's a blob eating the station, and someone else is trying to blow people up, and there's a clown stuffing people in the clown car, and it just felt a bit like this, where everyone was we were pairing up in different parts of it and then going off and doing something different. It's I come back upstairs, it's shit, Silvo's wasted. Anyway, what was I up to?
Yeah, there was a lot of bouncing around and among people for sure. Which was cool.
Yeah,
it's good
times. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And like you say, with the weapons, there was the parts there's weapons, but I know if I tell everyone, they're gonna go, yay, let's grab some weapons. And then we're on Ship Full of Pirates Part 2. Ship Full of Pirates Part 1 is what got us in this mess. So maybe not revealing that to certain party members was definitely the best choice. And certainly not letting the lizards know, although I think they would have done plenty damage with what they've got anyway. And of course, if the ship gets to this destination, they're probably going to find them. So that is a thing. There's different people with different thoughts on what will happen next with the ship. Some or all of these may occur. It would be interesting to see if a combination of them happen and play out and what that would do. But that will have to remain to be seen. But I'll be back here tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'm playing yet. I want to see what's on sale on Wednesday in the midweek sale first, and then I'll be back on Thursday with this. This kind of, it's a personal little thing I'm doing called Baldur's Gate. You probably never heard of it.
Small.
Very, very, very small. Yeah, very, very few people played it. Had no influence over games, but I'm enjoying it.
Proper indie title, isn't it? No one's ever heard of it.
Yeah, what is that little thing?
Baldur's what now?
Baldur's Goat. What? But No, good stuff, as always. And thank you, Saber. I look forward to seeing you, of course, on Saturday for ARFCon as well.
Oh, yes.
And last but certainly not least, I will not see this person, but again, I wish you the best at the Elton John concert. And today, Waves had a chance, I think. First of all, I just love the image of Waves constantly, like people going up and Waves being like, let's go after this. And then like, let's go after this. And like following everybody to hear what was going on. But also you surprised me, Pyron, because what Waves said to Oceanus is not what I was expecting. After the gung-ho, like, the ship is ours, the ship is ours, the ship is ours. You even began that conversation with the ship is ours. The fact that at one point he was basically like, Oceanus was like, so you would destroy the ship if you had to? And you were like, yes. Now, it's not that it doesn't make sense as a fundamentally good character that Waves might be willing to do that, but there is a sense of kind of acceptance of that might be necessary that I think would have come to some surprise with Oceanus based upon Silvo's reaction, and surprised me a little bit. I wasn't sure how you would handle that, and that was really interesting to me, and it sort of gives another dimension to Waves that is important here, which is, of course, commitment and devotion to friends and all that too, but the idea that with as much as Waves really wants this ship, the fact that Waves would be willing to take a step to scuttle it if she had to is interesting to me. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I think Oceanus asked Waves different questions than what he asked from Silvo. From Silvo, he asked to lay his life down to protect Saltmarsh without even knowing whether it's going to work, because the lizards alluded to having more ships.
Or prodding to know whether he would, basically.
And to me, he was just like, if you can't have the ship, would you destroy it? And Waves like, yeah, I would. But she is not imagining or thinking as far as this would mean her death or never getting another ship again or anything like that. So I think it was for Waves, it was a different question than what was put onto
really
Silvo.
glad you picked up on that.
Yeah.
I'm really, really glad you
That's
picked
quite
up
right.
on that,
Yep.
because I noticed that as well.
Yep.
And if you had asked Waves whether she would be willing to put her life down for Saltmarsh, that's a different question.
Right.
That's a very, very different question.
And it's a different question because of the conversation that happened with Silvo first, right? So Oceanus is thinking a little bit about that reaction also, presumably.
But Waves doesn't know anything about that conversation.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, this is why Oceanus asked you the questions he does.
That's why she also understood the undertone completely differently in that moment. So, yeah. But yeah, and in a way, Waves is still trying to overcome being a follower all the time, but she followed around a lot today. So sometimes it still happens. But she's working on it.
It's work in
She's
progress.
working on it. It's a work in progress, as all things. And also, Mothra was completely right with not telling Waves about the weapons. Because he is right, she would have armed herself directly. So, yeah, I think that was the smart choice in that moment.
She just picks up 5 javelins in each claw and just like comes forward. And yeah.
There were 10 swords. I mean, who needs 10 swords?
Yeah, all I need is one.
I think 3 is the maximum one can wield, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose. Your beak, talon, and talon, right? So.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe Silver with his tentacles could do more.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs 10 swords. I mean, that could be really impressive.
Could be.
So yeah, one will. I'm not sure whether I can stream on Thursday because it's a holiday here, national holiday, and we might be, and the kids don't have school or daycare on Friday, so we might be actually visiting my grandparents. I might be back late. I don't know yet. And then for the weekend, I'll be out for Elton John. But I'll try to watch on Friday, and I'll try to watch on Saturday from the hotel room if I can, in any way, and support and retweet, and all I can do, I'll be there in mind as much as I can. You're
Sorry,
listening
just
to something.
responded. Yes, no, sorry, I was just responding.
I just keep on talking about.
No, I'm
something.
good. I'm good. No, I was just making sure that we're closing up shop here. I am very much again, have a good time at the concert, and I will be looking forward to having you back for both Talisman Adventures and Saltmarsh. And if you are able to pop into chat over the weekend, we'll be happy to see you. But if not, definitely have a good time. You deserve it, and enjoy yourself. And for all of the players, this was wonderful stuff as always, and I cannot wait for more of this campaign and to see at least 3 of you, plus others, on Saturday as well. Chat, can we get some love for the amazing players of D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh, Pyron Jade, Darksaber2K, Peripheral Mike, and Inanda. Thanks everybody so much, and I will see you folks soon.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic time at the concert. Bye.
Bye for now.
Love you, miss you, bye. Love you, miss you, bye.
All right, folks, that is going to... Whoops. Hold on a second. I know I turned that thing off, or at least I thought I did, but I didn't. That, folks, is going to do it for us for today. Really, really fun session, and we went way over, and I got to get cruising because we went over. So I hope that people will, as I do my transition here, I hope that people will understand as we kind of rise up on out of here. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, this campaign is going in some very interesting directions, and I am excited to see where more of that is going to happen as time goes on. So that is going to do it for us for tonight. I believe that's also going to do it for us for today on this channel, if I'm not mistaken. I believe we are going to do a raid of some kind, but I will let the folks handle that after we're actually done our outro. If you like what you saw and heard, please follow us on the channel here at GOG.com. Please check us out and subscribe to us here in the channel, and please check us out individually on all of our individual channels as well. And again, as a reminder, please stop by my channel on Friday/over the weekend, especially back here on Saturday for the GOG people, back on my channel, I should say, on Saturday, where I'm going to be with ArvCon to benefit the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. So that would be awesome if people could support it and spread the word, because it is a really important cause, and I'm grateful to GOG.com for sponsoring it and to all the other folks who have sponsored it as well. I'm going to rise up on out of here. Thank you, everyone, for being here and being a part of this, and I am going to fire up the video and then rise up on out. I will be back here on this channel next Tuesday with Celasta Crown of the Magister, the Lost Valley DLC. But until then, that's it for now. Stick around. As soon as the video is done, we'll do our raid. And so that's it for me. Much love to all of you folks, and I will catch you folks soon. And a special thanks to my players for a wonderful session today. Bye for now.